Imagine thinking Mr. Rogers is an insult. Imagine that.
What?
Do you know Mr. Rogers?
What are you talking
Everywhere
about?
you go.
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
What is this a reaction to?
This is not. It's not a reaction.
Did you just randomly just conjure this thought?
No, it's a reference to a real life thing, but it doesn't need to be a reference. I'm just saying Mr. Rogers is the best.
I don't know what's happening.
We didn't have Mr. Rogers here.
I'm very confused about what the stance here is. Like, does anyone have a negative stance towards Mr. Rogers, the fucking friendliest guy on planet Earth? Like,
We didn't have them here in Portugal growing up.
So, you didn't have a Rogers. They didn't make a Portuguese version of him.
I'm a Portuguese
nothing
version.
like
They
it
could have
at
just
all.
translated it. Jesus.
Yeah, I suppose like his face is completely unfamiliar to me as a kid
Yeah.
growing up in the
That's-
80s.
Everyone, welcome back
Probably
to
normal.
Dialogue Choices podcast. It's been a bit because it just wasn't available. I've been not available like half of all days for the last 2 weeks.
He's been available, just not to us.
It's been a busy time.
Sounds
Been
like
a
it.
problem.
Even today. Oh, no, wait. Today is the beginning of the day for you.
I basically became available like 10 minutes before this started.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's like the beginning of me having any time again. And
That's
yet
my daily...
I apparently chose this to be the time to revive Monster Hunter despite that. Which is not helpful.
Revive Monster Hunter?
Yeah, I covered the Iceborne expansion last year, but I got stuck on a boss, and I just couldn't beat them. And Monster Hunter is just really brutal because the boss fights are like an hour long.
Oh.
And that is the whole game, basically. Like the core combat is just you fighting these big boss monsters for like 30 to 60 minutes each time, pretty much. And when you're progressing through the main story, you're fighting new hard things you've never beaten before each time. So that just means all the more that's going to trend towards the higher number each time. And then if you lose, you get to start the whole thing over. And if you used up consumables that you're out of resources for, you get to go farm those again and so on. And or if you realize that you aren't well equipped for this fight, then it's time to spend hours and hours like fighting other monsters that take a long time to fight to farm up the resources to get the new set that'll help you fight the thing that you're fighting. It's just a whole thing.
I like that. Like in theory, that sort of gameplay really. I like that idea a lot. I think they could make a Witcher game more or less like that as well. I felt that the first game was kind of like that if you played on maximum difficulties, but I never played Monster Hunter. I just now noticed you're releasing an hour and a half episodes of it, so go watch it.
It's Monster Hunter's neat in part because one, for people like Dark Souls and stuff, you just have like the really really big like meaty combat with the big heavy swings and all that, and sort of planning ahead and not just like mashing at things. And it's just all a series of boss fights against large monsters, so it's pretty much just the boss fights. It's not exactly like Dark Souls, not entirely analogous, but that's like one of the most similar franchises out there compared to like how most RPGs handle combat. RPG status being debatable.
Did you see that they are making a Monster Hunter movie?
Yeah, with Mila Jovovich and the guy that sounds like the name of the other good director, but it isn't. Paul Anderson or other Anderson.
I don't know. I just saw that it had guns in it.
I know like the director isn't I think is like a bad person.
Oh, is it Paul W.S. Anderson? That's the one. That's the director. If he's a bad person, well,
I'm trying to remember if he has any relation to Wes Anderson or not.
I don't know Wes Anderson. I am very bad at everything. Oh, I know Wes Anderson. I recognize the face.
Wes Anderson makes a lot of major movies. Well, not major movies. Relatively small scale, but beloved movies in many cases. I was just like, are these two people... I wonder if I got it stuck in my head at some point, or if it was the case that they were like siblings, and it was just this funny narrative where one of them makes like these beloved art films, and the other one is like just making like trash, kind of
mainstream stuff.
Well, it's more of just. I think it's definitely more of the. You do something for fun, you do something for profit. You do something for fun, you do something for profit.
It's all really for profit, just maybe not your profit.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like he's making money, he's making capital, so then he can go and fund something he wants to actually do by making something that somebody else wants him to make.
So apparently, this Monster Hunter movie is going to have weapons, or rather firearms, but the firearms don't work against the monsters.
I saw like a picture that it was like people in a truck, or people in a Jeep firing out of like a Gatling gun or something. Like, and it's like, that's odd for Monster Hunter, but okay. I guess they're taking the approach of it being like, well, what if Monster Hunter happened to now or something, as opposed to just being in the Monster Hunter world. But I haven't seen the trailer.
So it is in the Monster Hunter world. It's just some military people get isekai'd into a Monster Hunter world.
Oh, they get stuck there.
Yeah, they get stuck in a Monster Hunter
I don't know
world.
which one is better.
Neither is a good choice. They're both really bad storytelling narratives.
Storytelling like that.
I hope it's literally Alice. Just Alice from the Resident Evil movies gets sucked into Monster Hunter and is still the same character in her like 12th movie at this point.
I mean, it basically is. I remember someone posted a picture where they show, I think it's Nergigante or something, and she's like holding these fire swords, and are like, isn't Nergigante immune to fire damage? Like,
honestly,
well, then that's going to go poorly for her.
Narratives like
that's
this,
like the main. Yeah,
it feels like
the main controversy. Yeah, there it is.
It feels like they proposed the movie and said, okay, so we have a video game franchise that's about killing monsters in this fantasy world, and we need to make a movie about it. And the director goes and looks, okay, let me see. And they watch the game for a little bit and say, okay, that's all stupid. Let's make guns and trucks, and then try to retrofit some of the monsters in there.
I don't know what monsters in that. I don't know what monsters in that poster, but it's not Nergigante, and also Nergigante has no resistances actually.
I forget which one that is. In any case, the monster in this picture is immune to fire. So the joke is that this is a dumb poster because it could never work.
It kind of looks like Diablos.
Maybe
Diablos is resistant to fire, but not immune. But because Diablos has that big club tail and the giant horns.
Oh yeah, I think it is. It might be Diablos.
I wear Diablos armor on my character.
That is a big monster. That's the thing about the games as well. Is just it's got a little bit of that Shadow of the Colossus style to it.
Yeah, you're fighting these huge creatures.
So in Monster Hunter World, it is immune to fire. Like fire damage does nothing to it.
It's resistant. It's not immune.
It has an X over it. It means it does nothing. It's just It's just neutral. It does no bonus damage to it whatsoever. Oh yeah,
I was looking at the wrong page.
Yeah. So it is just. It's like. What a pointless picture you've created, but it only makes zero sense to people who know Monster Hunter, which isn't the target demographic of this movie. Yeah. So it ultimately doesn't matter at all.
But look at this from this perspective. She's running away from the monster with her flaming swords, which means that she probably noticed that.
It's promo material. It's made by somebody who didn't make the movie, usually.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a bunch of. It's usually stitched together pictures from different things.
Yeah,
just to try to make the poster look good without any of the context. It's like when I'm making a thumbnail for a game that I've only played like the first half an hour of, and I'm like, sure, hope this makes sense. Hope the characters I picked for the thumbnail are actually in it for more than a few minutes or something.
And they aren't.
Has that ever happened?
Sometimes you pick a relatively minor character on accident or something, or it's like not. Yeah. It can be weird. But half the time I just try to get the protagonist or something because it's the easiest. Unless they just die.
Yeah, I don't...
Last of Us 2.
Play one
I
of
don't
those,
really know...
Well, Last of Us 2 doesn't change protagonists. Assassin's Creed 3 does.
Oof.
Assassin's Creed 3, I forget.
There's
it does.
There's a whole intro where you play as like a British soldier, I think, or something like that, and then suddenly you're a Native American, and that's the main character. It's not that much of a surprise because everyone knew the main Native American was the protagonist of the game, but there's a shockingly long intro of you playing a completely different character.
To be fair, I forgot there was an intro in that game with the British soldier.
Yeah, it's a while.
I forgot a few hours of Assassin's Creed plot, so...
I remember there's a lot of hexagons. No, squares. That game is about squares, isn't it? Like everything is like cubes and whatnot. When you go... I think it is.
The game's about squares.
I'll take your word for it.
No, I'm saying that when you go into some of the areas that are like more alien, there's some areas that are alien. It's got to do with the plot of the whole franchise, really. And you start seeing this some more sci-fi things. Everything is sort of like squarish because there's a lot of that like graphical corruption when you transport yourself into the machine and back out. Or when you access the main menu, really.
It's hard to remember. I haven't played much Assassin's Creed since like giving up halfway through 3. I used to complete all of them. Like get 100% completion of each one.
You say that like there's just 2 of them at that time. Now there's like 7 of them.
No,
there's like 3 or 4.
Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations. So I completed 4 games.
Yeah,
and then gave up on 3 because I was just bored. There was a trilogy. 2 had a trilogy.
Yes.
They did this thing where they gave them subtitles instead of sequel numbers because for a while there it seemed like their approach was going to be to make each number be a new protagonist, and there was a trilogy of Ezio games.
There was? Oh, Ezio, right? But there was no Altair.
One Altair, and then one. There's also an Altair handheld game that had a subtitle. Then there's at least 3 Ezio games. And then 3 was a new protagonist, Connor,
because there's
I think.
handheld games for Ezio.
And like the 4th one was the pirate one, so it was already a new number again, when before that they weren't doing numbers for each sequel. But they immediately stopped using Connor and switched to a pirate. And then they never used a number again.
Because numbers don't sell.
Gave up on that structure. There's a weird structure to franchises where you just like... You use numbers for a few times... Then you stop using numbers because once the number's big enough, it feels like it's bad for some reason, except Final Fantasy and some other things. Like almost all franchises stop using a number, X number of movies in. But then once they get long enough, it's like a prestige move to then suddenly go back and use the next number you hadn't used yet. Like Crash Bandicoot suddenly has a 4, and you're like, then you're thinking back at the numbers, and you're like, how did they get, what was their counting? What did they use to get here? I think I remember seeing discussion of that when like Mario Kart had an 8 all of a sudden, and they were like, "Okay, what was which ones are they counting to arrive at the number 8?" Because for a while there, they did not have numbers, and like people are disagreeing on whether or not the number makes sense and stuff like that.
It wasn't even the year that it came out of.
It's all marketing. And marketing in and of its nature is nonsensical bullshit that we as a consumer have to like piece through and go, oh, I see what you mean here. And then at the end of the day, you're like, what? Why did I do that? That was a waste of time.
Because calling it like Crash 4 is like trying to make it feel impactful. Like, it's the big one. It's the real thing. It's back. Yeah. But when you go back to numbers, but it's not where you left off on the numbers, then you have to do like mental math. You're like, does that number make sense? They're calling this one 12, and the last one they numbered was 3. And I feel like there's 15 of them, so...
I will say this is why I really appreciate Zelda games not having numbers, except for the one, which is Zelda 2. Yeah. And then they just were like, nope, never again on that. We're all set here.
Wasn't Zelda 2 also done by a completely different team, and just like...
Technically, yes, but it's still marketed by Nintendo, so they chose to keep the name Zelda 2. Like they got to decide what its name was. And
was Zelda 2 made by a different company?
It was not a first party game. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Weird.
It's even a completely different game.
No.
It's like it looks different. It feels completely different. Because at that time as well, game development was very much like Mario 2 is just a reskinned version of some other game that never got released.
I think it had direction from. I think like Miyamoto provided direction on it, but I don't think it was developed in house.
It says developer Nintendo EAD.
Yeah.
I've recently seen a video about Zelda 2. That's why I'm wondering about it. There's this YouTube channel that goes into detail on how they compress the games to fit into all the techniques, programming techniques and stuff to fit into cartridges and whatnot.
I think that was my first Zelda.
Yeah, 2?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess technically it is part of Zelda or part of Nintendo's first party.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't think Zelda was like a crazy side project.
Maybe I'm mixing the.
It would.
Which one it is because it doesn't look like the one.
It was the 4th research team. That's why
you are only getting quieter. What is up, Andrew?
No, I'm thinking to myself.
I keep turning you up more. You're almost at 200%, and you keep getting quieter.
I just mumbling to myself. I was trying to think. It was just a different team than the one that made the first Zelda, and yeah, so it felt that's why it felt so different.
Mm-hmm. Because it looks different as well.
But it was the last time
down.
Zelda had numbers in its name, and then it was just subtitles from there on.
After all this time, they come back and they're like, Zelda 3.
Oh God! Could you imagine?
That would be a baller
imagine
move.
how like Breath of the Wild, Zelda 3, and you're like, what the fuck? Like
that would be a baller move. I would be there for that. Honestly, that sounds like.
Is this a sequel to Breath of the Wild? Yes, but it's the third Zelda game in the franchise. Like what? Like,
have fun timelines.
Because technically, Breath of the Wild 2 is it a prequel or is it a sequel?
I don't know a single thing about it really.
Exactly.
I don't really look into stuff that's not out that much.
Yeah, well, I mean...
There's so many things that are out already all the time. Speaking of things that are out already, since I've been away and dealing with people lately a lot. What the fuck is Genshin Impact? Because apparently everyone on the planet is playing it. Like, so many people have independently brought it up, just as much as Among Us, for the last, 2 weeks. And I'm like, what the... What?
It's the first time I'm hearing it.
Let me explain to you what Genshin Impact is.
Because I looked at a screenshot of it at first, because someone was like, are you going to play Genshin Impact? And I looked at it, I'm like, that looks like a JRPG, so no.
So,
and then that's as close as I looked.
What if someone took the concept of Breath of the Wild and added gacha mechanics to it?
Why?
Also cute anime girls.
Welcome to Genshin Impact. Cue anime music. And that is your explanation. That's all you need to know. Do you want to play Breath of the Wild, but with RNG, pay-to-win, random mechanics involved? If so, then Genshin Impact is your game. You may like it because it has anime.
I just opened a video. I just opened a video, and the first thing I see is a tiny blue girl that looks like she's 4 feet tall, and she's poking her finger at her mouth, like, "Ooh, you mean me?" It's like I hate this aesthetic. I don't want to play as aesthetic? Oh God, is that what you play as in this game?
No, I think you play as the bigger ones.
Yeah, you play as a bigger character.
Because when you're like, Breath of the Wild sort of inspired games, I'm like, that sounds interesting. Oh, this person is fighting a straight up a reimagining of the mech dudes from Breath of the Wild. Like the weird, like I've been sitting here in this field for 10 years like Bastion, and I just woke up like mechs.
Yeah,
it does look very, very similar to that.
All the interface and health meters and what look really familiar.
Yeah.
But then he opens up a menu full of ladies, and I'm like, this looks like a fucking game I would never want to play ever.
You gotta roll to get those good characters, man.
That map his mini map is just the map from Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
the zone location announcements in the middle of the screen look like the font from Breath of the Wild. Half of this is like, that could be good, and the other half, oh God, actually when I'm looking at this video is like 80% looking at menus where a bunch of things have star ratings, and I'm like, I don't want it.
But you want those stars. Come on, that's what you play games for.
I just want to play a Breath of the Wild inspired game because that could be good, but this is also inspired by a bunch of predatory gross things.
Keith.
I don't want to play as any of these girls either.
Keith. Gacha games are not predatory.
Her name is Sucrose?
Oh.
Look.
There's one of them named Sucrose.
I seriously don't know what your complaint is here, because this is one of billions of fucking gacha games that exist. This one just happens to be on consoles. That's the only difference.
I didn't know that gacha games had gameplay.
This is the first one. That's why people are so excited about it. They're like, wow, it's a gacha game that evolved into a worse version of gacha games. Ew. It's a game hidden behind money. Like that.
What is a gacha game?
So gacha games are the idea that you need to roll to get characters that will increase your ability to better reach the ending of the game. You can succeed in playing the game normally by hundreds of repetitious hours of gameplay, or you can pay $5.99, do a pull, and possibly get an SR or SSR or above character who has tons of good stats, and you can just blaze through the problem.
So it's like if Final Fantasy VII required you to be level 999. But you could also pay to get there.
Usually the gameplay, from what I've seen, looks really minimal or kind of like watered down. Because I think there's like a Fire Emblem game and stuff like that, and you get like packs of heroes, like booster packs for a card game. But also, it's not just like the heroes have a set identity and they're all the same. It's like, oh no, that's a silver Marth, and you're gonna want to get like a platinum Marth, or that's a C Marth, and you want an S Marth. Like they have ratings that makes them better and so on. And it's like it's RNG loot box mechanics made as a core mechanic of the game.
Yep,
and I hate it.
And,
I'm super not touching this game. Everyone's been hyping
there's your
it
answer,
up.
Mr. Commenter that asked that.
I spent the last few weeks getting hyped up on this game a little bit and being curious because people keep talking about it so positively, but that's because they have trash taste, apparently.
Now we just are here to make you like the people who you deal with less.
Just play Breath of the Wild again.
Because now you're retroactively realizing they were all talking crap. They were like, God, don't play this game.
I keep looking up gameplay videos, and like most of the video is a series of menus that are bad. So little of their time seems to be spent playing a game. It's like all this fetishizing over how many star ratings you have on your sword or your moe girl.
Paradox gamers right now. Oh, what's wrong with menus?
I have to skip around so much to find the gameplay.
I'm watching a video right now that is just a lot of fighting. Yeah, I don't know the one you're watching. Although
this lady's got a ghost wolf. They're also this gameplay is just button mashing.
Butt mashing?
Button mashing. They're just like plugging away at hitting a dude for a long time and making a bunch of numbers pop up, and like that he's level that and I'm level that, and just keep smacking him.
Yeah, that's the JRPG side of things.
It's not Breath of the Wild though.
No.
So when people say it's like Breath of the Wild but better, they just mean it looks cosmetically like Breath of the Wild in its world and plays completely differently in every way. Completely different. And has fundamentally different progression mechanics and incentive systems and morality for existing. But it superficially resembles Breath of the Wild in screenshots, so that's why you should play it. It's like, fuck. This is, I don't know, for somebody... Since Breath of the Wild was like my game of the year, like I find the comparison kind of insulting. For people like, oh, you like this, you should like this. I'm horrified looking at this. I'm now browsing in incognito mode so it doesn't fuck up my recommendations and make me. It's like, you looked at 3 videos by this game. That means you're a super fan now, right? Like it does with Overwatch. I'm gonna step away from my personal account so it doesn't ruin my YouTube browsing.
I have a separate account for that sort of thing, just so I can watch guitar making videos and not get swarmed in my own.
Man, it's like everything.
The moment you watch somebody,
like JRPG combat, gotcha mechanics, and moe girls, it's like everything that I don't want. For
me, I think JRPG mechanics are like at the face of it, I think they're totally fine, honestly. But I think the reliance on the grind is what really turns me off of those games. Is that there's there's just this assumption that you're going to be fighting trash mobs a lot, which happens a lot with real-time games in Western RPGs, but it's just not the same. Like, can you imagine, like, because the thing is, for me, the problem is that it's turn-based. If it's going to be turn-based, you can't have trash mobs. Every combat needs to be good. And you look at the game like what's that game that Banner Saga? Can you imagine Banner Saga with trash mobs instead of like relevant fights?
Filler content as opposed to like everyone being an impactful designed encounter. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Right, I feel like if I want to play a turn-based game, I want every encounter to feel like it's a unique, different experience. Like at least in like Banner Saga and XCOM sort of way. Although to some extent XCOM is more like it's re-randomized elements, but like it has a base mechanic set that can make fights feel consistently different for like many hours. Mm-hmm. But you play most JRPGs and like you get out of the starting town and you walk into like the random encounter zone and you fight a dude and it's not that hard. You mostly just button mash through and just auto attack him. And then you walk 5 more steps and you get the same fight again. And you're like, what? Yeah. I just did this one. I proved I can beat this one. Why are you doing it again? It's like, I can see that. That's what I was like about like Dark Souls. Like they repeat enemies, but they configure every single encounter to be like, well, now it's a different number of enemies, or now they're positioned differently, or now it's like 2 of those guys, but they're being covered by an archer up on the high ground, or like the environment makes the fight different. Like every single fight should have a meaningful design that's intended for play and not just to spend more time.
And the thing is, like even mobile games that are reliant on turn-based combat, like they have such a huge amount of difficulty steering away from that JRPG sort of attitude towards trash mobs. I was for a while I was looking for a Darkest Dungeon style game for Android, and the closest I found was one that was clearly inspired.
There's like a dozen. I feel like I've let's tried like 6 Darkest Dungeon clones.
But like I was specifically looking for it in mobile, so it's different. There's a lot of stuff there that doesn't exist on PC. The thing is, like on the very first combat, you can like after a while you start to tell on the very first combat what it's gonna be like. Like the one that got closest, you had to hit the same enemy like 5 times in a row, and there was no meaningful tactical difference for the first combat. It was just the first combat. You had to hit him 5 times in a row, and that doesn't happen in the Darkest Dungeon. And there's a reason why it doesn't happen. Yeah, it's because it's boring as hell. And there's a reason why it happens in mobile is because they want you to have only 2 or 3 runs per day or something. Otherwise, you had to pay. Or
part of what was so beautiful about my first playthrough of like the early access version of Darkest Dungeon was just the fact that every fight felt tense and impactful, and every individual turn felt like it was the difference between you potentially losing somebody or winning the fight. Like there was a tension there where everything mattered and the encounters were interesting. And a lot of the JRPGs I've played and seen, it's just like, make the pretty colors happen. Just keep hitting them, and then yay, pretty. And it's like I hate it. Like that epitomized was Tokyo Mirage Sessions, and I was so disappointed because people keep hyping up like of all the JRPGs, like even if you don't like JRPGs, like the people that like Atlas, they make the good ones. They make Shin Megami Tensei and Persona, and those are great. So I played the fucking Fire Emblem Shin Megami Tensei crossover that was by them, and it's like, this is filler. Like, the story is filler. Most of the places that we go to are filler. Like all the combat is filler, and like specifically, every time you proceed and in the leveling system and unlock something new, you're always unlocking another thing that's going to make fighting slower and longer and less tactical. Like it has a system. Like, do you know much about Tokyo Mirage Sessions?
I've seen.
I don't. I have no idea.
Yeah, because you like
some of your videos.
There's like a fucking pylon mechanic where if you attack somebody, then a person in your party. If you hit somebody, if you exploit somebody's weakness by hitting their elemental weakness, which is basically just on the screen most of the time anyway, it's like hit him with fire or hit him with a lance or whatever. Like they just tell you. But even then, even if they didn't tell you, you just have to figure out the answer, and then that's the answer to the fight. Like it's not really a tactic. It's just there's a correct answer of what button to use. You hit them with their weakness, and then one of your allies hops in and also attacks them. Then as you level up, you get more and more unlocked chains where like at first it's like one person hops in, and then eventually it's like 7 people hop in. So like you do one attack, and like 7 consecutive people all hop in from not only your main party, but all of your reserve party members all start hopping to attack that person in a huge sequence of attacks. And you just watch that happen. every time you do an attack from that point on. But then it gets worse because you get all these combo attacks where two of your guys can work together, and those attacks where they work together are they're unlocked by like major like moments throughout the storyline where they do like a music video because they're all idols, and so it like plays an entire dedicated cutscene based on that music video every time that attack happens. But on top of that, if you ever do like something that's basically the equivalent of like critting or something, I think there's like also normal crits, but there's also like a different kind of crit that spawns a special event encounter like attack, and that itself is like it's also like some sort of extended like music video kind of moment thing. And it just leads to a situation where it's like I think these can like loop into each other where like you could attack somebody with your chain attack, then midway through the chain attack you're queuing up your fucking like music video that's going to play after that.
Concatenated cutscenes.
And at some point it's just like there's like you press one button and then a minute passes of just the game showing you how like glammy it is and all the cool stuff that's happening.
I find like, that
it's so much,
so weird.
It's exhausting, so and if you think it sucks, I wonder if I can find a video. I think I uploaded a video or something that like showed just how long it can be between turns. Like if you think this sounds exhausting for normal gameplay where things matter, like when you're fighting a boss fight, it's so much worse when you're trying to be like, okay, I'm underpowered for this boss, I gotta grind now, and you're just like bored out of your mind grinding because the grinding is so time consuming, because the fighting is so time consuming, because every action just takes so long and you're doing so little. You don't even have the satisfaction of button mashing through combat because you're not getting to be like, okay, now it's not like, okay, now Yuna attack, now Titus attack, now Orin attack, and you're just mashing it. Like it's like, no, do one thing and then wait a long time.
Do you know what dual screening is, or if it is still called that? It was for a while. Do you know what I'm talking about? About using your phone when you're watching TV?
Well, I have multiple screens just on my computer too. Yeah. Like the multitask, yeah.
For a while now, American television, I assume television in general in all over the world, has been made. Some of it, anyway, has been made with the concept that a lot of people watch television while also being on their phones or doing something else. And there's, this is very common for certain types of television, obviously, for things like maybe for like the news shows that people eat while they watch the news shows or whatever. Like things are made with the knowledge that people are not going to be paying full attention to the television. I wonder, because the reason why I mentioned dual screening, which is the whole where people watch television while being on their phones on Twitter or whatever. Japan has a longer history, as far as I know. Andrew might have a better insight into this than I do. A longer history of people being on their phones while watching television, or I assume maybe playing video games. So maybe that's why we see this.
That shit drives me insane.
Because then
like when people are all sitting down, like, oh yeah, let's go watch a movie, and then like two people are on their phones, and I'm like, I thought we were watching a movie. Okay. Ooh.
I think
that's definitely that's like an American thing, for sure.
I had a friend of mine that like wanted to watch all of Breaking Bad, and then they would constantly is it Breaking Bad or Hero? I don't remember. We were watching like a DVD set of some show, and they were constantly like thinking that they're success. Like I talk about this all the time when people think they can multitask more than they actually can, because you can't really notice that you're not noticing stuff. But like they were constantly just like not really aware of what was happening on the show, or what characters had to do with each other, or what the plots were, because they were multitasking the entire time. And it's like, you're not absorbing any of this. And so I always wonder when people voice their opinions about media, I always kind of wonder, like, how much attention do you give to your media, though? Because I'm always wondering. Like, I walked into my brother watching Agretzko in Japanese, but on a second monitor while he's playing a video game, and I'm like, wait a minute.
That's the reason I stopped watching anime, is I can't do it well.
Yeah, I'm like, watching a subtitled anime kind of takes your full attention. You can't just like not look at it and be like, oh, whatever.
That
anime.
depends.
He's not.
I do that all the time.
He's not your weird next level weeb where he like knows enough Japanese to just not look at the screen, and then his takeaway is like, oh yeah, it wasn't very good. It's whatever. And it's like you didn't watch it. It was just running in the room.
That's
like a podcast.
Wait, that's confusing. Why didn't he? It's in English. Why didn't he just watch it in English on Netflix?
Because he probably thinks like Japanese is better, right? But then he won't give it his full attention.
Well, yeah, which it is.
So it just isn't working.
But like, if it's something I've never seen before, I usually almost always put my focus on it if it's in Japanese. But otherwise, like, yeah, I would just like a Gretzko. If I didn't want to pay attention, I would just watch it in English.
Yeah.
Like I've done that for what is it? I did that for season 2 where I was trying to do dishes and stuff while I was watching it, so I just switched it to English because I just need to hear the things. I don't need to actually see what was happening. And
but
I
that's
just need to
also
hear
so
the conversation.
like even that is because there's so much animation though. There's so much
there's
work
not,
put it. No,
there's really not much context you're losing in a Gretzko by not visually.
I love watching a Gretzko.
And that's fine.
Is it like
to me, there's
Bakemonogatari that with the long drawn out animations that are basically
they're very simple animations. They're not anything that I'm like, oh no, I missed out on a really good scene. Like
I just like the characters are consistently really well characterized visually, and so they have a lot of little ticks to their animation that add a lot to it for me.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, like, there's nothing stunning about it visually. It's very very consistent.
Yeah, they do these little trembles and things. It's like really specific things I'm not used to seeing actually.
Yeah, like Haida has a thing where when he talks, he kind of like ne, and he, like his head tilts, his arm leans. Yeah, there's a lot of physical traits that they all have because they're actual fleshed out characters.
Yeah,
but the story itself isn't something that I need to see. It doesn't often portray its story visually more than it does just explain it to you. Let's say like, all right, we did the thing, or I am exhausted from doing the thing. It's like, okay, so I just need to hear that, and I'll just switch it to English, do a thing, and listen to it, and then come back and put it in Japanese. But yeah, I don't know what you would get out of.
That's crazy to me.
You'd swap?
I don't know. I just give every show my full attention when I'm watching it.
But some shows, I don't have time.
It's like YouTube video essays are what I multitask during because usually the visual. Yeah, well, it depends on the specifics, but like when an H Bomber Guy video comes out, that's full attention. But a decent number of like Philosophy Tube and ContraPoints are often them in a costume sitting pretty still most of the time. So I can just like look every now and then and be like, oh yeah, that's what he looks like. And like that's the aesthetic. But he's mostly going to be sitting there for like 20 minutes dressed like that.
For me, it's the opposite. Those are the ones I pay attention because there's so much work put into
it's good.
Physicality of it.
I just have an endless backlog, and then there's also a lot of video essays that are it's like I'm just showing clips from the movie, and it's like, well, I've seen the movie. So I have the context already.
Do you want to know what I put in the background sometimes?
It's always and to be clear, it's always on the second monitor. It's not like running in the room while I'm doing something else completely. It's like on the second monitor in front of me. I don't have speakers.
Do you want to know what I put on the background sometimes and just listen to? People fixing stuff without saying words.
Wait, what? What are you even getting out of that?
The sounds of machines and things. It's fun.
You just like the noises.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's some channels that are really good.
Is there audio you're getting? Like,
yeah, you get the audio of them messing around.
People have such specific stuff sometimes. Yeah,
I have VTubers in my second monitor at all times. Like before we started this podcast, I was watching them play Among Us. Like it's always there. There's always at least a VTuber video going somewhere in my home at all times. But I'm also trying to learn. I'm using they're virtual YouTubers, so they're usually Japanese girls using a anime avatar to let's play games. Or they just talk. Sometimes they just sit there and talk. But the idea
it's infected everything because everything else about Andrew is like how do I make everything an anime instead of anything ever being live action or anything? It's like it's like now the Let's Players can also be the anime.
can also be games. Sorry.
I have never watched as much Let's Play. Like I have produced so much more content for Let's Plays than I've ever consumed. And that's changing because now there's anime girls doing it. I'm like, well, I'm here for it. I'll watch. Yeah. I literally watched an anime girl build a thing in Minecraft. I was like, I could just do that right now. I don't have to watch you do that, but I want to because you're adorable, and I'm gonna see how this goes. And then like I see like my YouTube will be like, oh, you like Minecraft? Let's go to the next Minecraft thing. I'm like, no, oh, that's a live person. Fuck them. I don't want to be anywhere near.
I saw the face rig people are like closing off face rig and starting rebooting a whole new software specifically in response to like the VTubers.
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Because
VTubers used to just be weird furries, basically.
No, like VTubing was specifically just Kizuna AI. She was the only VTuber.
Well, I just mean like there was just various people that would like be Twitch streamers, but they're instead of a face cam, they had a like 3D animated character.
Yeah.
Like there's a guy that like it's like I think it's a husky, and he's got a plunger on his head.
Okay, I'll trust you. I don't know. I know with the anime girls, there was one for like a couple of years in like 2000. I think it was like 11 or 14. It was pretty long ago. And then she just sat there for a while. And they eventually like, wait, can't we just do this on a massive scale? And they started doing it on a massive scale, and it was just taking off. And now it's a big boom. All the people want to be VTubers. And
I want to be a VTuber.
Dog plunger Twitch is not a searchable thing. It does not give results.
So the thing
doesn't
about
work. I have no idea what this guy's name was.
The thing about VTubers is you have to fit two very important things before you can qualify. You must speak only Japanese as your native language, and you must have a very well designed avatar. I don't want none of that cheap shit. That's not good enough. And if I can tell that you can speak English natively, I don't want to watch you because you're not interesting.
You need to say the words improperly.
No, yes, I only want to hear you struggle. Like, if you struggle to speak English, I find you valid. You are a real anime girl, and you are allowed to do this. If not, if you can speak English fluently, no, I'm done. I cannot do that. It's disgusting. I don't want no American people or European people. I'm looking for specifically Japanese cute anime girls playing video games. That's the whole thing.
Troubles with English.
Yeah, well, they don't have to have troubles. They can understand the word, but there's a different. People who speak Japanese as their main language speak English in a specific way, and it's either really, really. I
hate it. I hate it.
I'm seeing. Yeah.
I was trying to find the plunger person, but I found what came up was fucking. Oh no. It's Doge plays games, like it's a Doge streamer, and the whole gimmick is just that his face rig avatar is Doge, or we should say that it's a Shiba Inu, but it has these uncanny, horrifying Disney eyes.
Okay,
and it's just a lot. I just didn't need this today.
Well, you did. You were the one who brought up like a furry VTuber,
and his entire. His editing is infuriating.
Let's move away from that. Let's make sure that Keith doesn't start his day off really badly.
Yeah, I would
focus on a question that's really good.
No, it's not.
Well, I guess we're not focusing on it today because otherwise
there's a really good video that Higuk, which I don't recommend as a channel generally because I don't like anime YouTubers because they're bad, but he has a really good video on the history of VTubers, and it's really interesting. Just the sad capitalist underbelly of it all. But I don't care about that. Well, yeah, it's just the idea that like it's.
Do you like roses? Well, let me tell you about all the terrible things that happen behind it. Do you like rings? But same thing. The cakes?
Rings?
Oh yeah, there's
Aren't you talking about a specific type of ring? Because rings in general are not like dangerous. It's just metal curved into a circle.
I was thinking more of diamonds, to be fair.
Yeah, that doesn't have slave labor. Slave labor comes from diamonds.
And
diamonds are forever.
Slave labor is forever.
I mean, as long as diamonds keep being important, and
Yeah.
Now you've got a slave in the diamond business. There's a lot of horrible slogans that you could just add slave to related to diamonds.
and they are accurate.
Yeah.
When you're here, you're slave.
So,
Oh no, that's definitely not the right slogan. That's not a diamond slogan.
Yeah, it is. When you're here, you're family.
wait, what?
That's Shane Company. You're right.
Yeah, Shane Company.
I thought that was.
I listened to American radio growing up. I know all of the stupid jeweler.
I remember his voice now. I mixed it up with Olive Garden.
You remember his voice?
Yeah, no, you heard that so many times. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mixed it up with Olive Garden, which also has like a family slogan, I think.
Oh yeah, now you have a friend in the, or now you have a friend in
You
the
lost it
diamond
again.
business. Yeah.
Now you have a friend in the olive business.
In the olive business, which is also, by the way, not a great business.
No businesses are great.
That's not true.
Welcome to world.
I would argue.
And then silence.
I'm sorry, I was trying to think of a good business, and
No,
it
let's
took
not.
a while.
Let's not
Yeah,
rack our brains.
It's gonna be a hard one.
Profit, because
gonna take a
you're always
while.
going to be. Yeah, you're always going to be profit.
I would
motive.
say
Profit
I would
motive.
say landscaping that's done by children is a good business.
What?
How is that a good business? No,
It's absolutely a good business. You
you're
know why?
exploiting the
Because
kids.
exactly, because there's nothing that they're doing with their lives, and you can turn it into profit for them. They
Andrew's
make
just
the
like,
money.
yeah, fuck them up.
Yeah, teach them about capitalism early so they don't make the same mistakes we did.
Just don't
Which
give
is-
them sharp utensils, otherwise they might cut their fingers off.
Well, I'm not saying like they're trimming your bushes. I'm saying they're just mowing the lawn. God, I'm asking for like.
Oh, I see where you're coming
Yeah.
from.
Oh,
It's
you
like,
mean
what?
like
It's like
lemonade stands?
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes of labor for whatever the kid wants. I don't know. He goes to the store and buys a video game or some candy.
There's
or
probably
a new
families-
bicycle.
There's probably different families that see that sort of chore differently, but in my family, we didn't have a lawn. We had 2 cars though, and I had to clean them, and I hated it. Guess what? My car is always dirty.
I
But
didn't ever had to
Yeah.
clean cars
So
because that was.
Sorry, for context for the previous JRPG discussion, I posted a video that I found. That was the one I posted before. And it's called
is this
Adlib.
one? Yeah.
It's called Adlib and Duo Attack Tokyo Mirage Sessions hashtag FE. If you want to find the exact video on YouTube in the audience. The noteworthy thing is that the first 80 seconds of this video feature the selection of one attack. And then it just plays itself for half an hour, basically. It's like all right, fun stuff. But yeah, I tracked down the exact example that I used before when this discussion came up in the Discord, the other Discord.
I remember you showing me a video, and it was like almost 5 minutes of people attacking, and I was like, "Bro, what the hell? When is it over?"
It's just waiting. Like there's even a little
'cause it
line.
was-
They even wait in line. Like there's a little queue on the bottom of the screen showing the many attacks that are all going to happen slowly back to back. And then and it has the gall to be like to say what your combo is in the top corner and have like one of those like miraculous, like give it a big hype word for how good your combo is when it's just happening on its own. Like you unlocked it naturally by just playing the game and progressing through the story, and you got all these combo unlocks, and you're not making interesting choices at all, and they're just flailing, and then you think the combo's over, but then the combo just seems to start over, and you're not sure why, and you're like, wait, did it start? Is there another line? Is there a second line that was activated by something else? Because sometimes the random effects, I think, can just trigger the entire chain to happen again, practically. Like, I've lost track of how convoluted it was, but it was definitely, like, convoluted for the sake of being convoluted, but not in a way that really affected your decision-making, which is the only thing that should matter in combat.
Yeah.
Is, like,
Well,
what am I doing, and what are the choices I'm making, and is that engaging?
That's the thing, is like there are branches of games, and some of them, predominantly a lot of JRPGs, are not built for watching. They're built for experiencing. So they're not built for like recording, they're built for experiencing. So like you as a player are supposed to be like, wow, these are all the characters I love. And I love seeing them do this cool thing. And after I do this one fight, I'm going to put the game down and come back in 2 weeks. And I'm not going to remember any of this.
It's just like, it's pretty people being pretty.
Yeah. But
Inoffensively and boringly. And I'm like, the whole time I'm just like waiting, like, when are we going to get to the part where you get into how creepy and predatory the idol industry is and any of the drama that, you know, because if you're writing a story, you want to have like some kind of drama and conflict. Like, surely you're going to get into like how, like the struggles that are involved in being in the idol industry, right? No. Completely waste that premise. It's like, cool, so I'm not here for the story, and I'm not here for the gameplay. It's like, if I'm here for the music videos, they're 20 minutes of like a 60-hour playthrough, so that's not a great ratio.
Yeah.
But
compare and contrast to games like Battle Brothers, where you have options in the option screen where they can speed up your turns and the enemy's turns, so it makes the combat basically chess, because everything
like I beat Anachronox recently, and that game was definitely improved by the fact that you can go into the text documents for the game and assign a hotkey to the fast forward button. That was like a secret developer feature that you're not supposed to have access to. And whenever you press that button, the game moves 8 times as fast. And so like every fight or every time I backtracked, I would just hit that and go through the environment, and like it made the whole game better. Because the game had so much backtracking, but I got to basically skip it.
That's That's good.
That doesn't sound good.
I mean, the original game doesn't sound good, but you make it better.
Like that game suffered from like early 3D of like wanting to have slow swooping animations that like show like the cameras being all cinematic and like doing like a single take camera kind of look.
It's Dutch
for all of the
Dutch
combat
angles for days,
where it's like it's flying around the fight and like it has to get into position to show each animation because it's not doing cuts. And it's like, this probably was neat looking in like the year 2000, but now it's just like, why does it take so long to do anything? And then you go and you just hit the button and you just like fast forward through the animations when you're done with them. And that one button made the game so much better. That was good shit.
But and that goes there are some games that don't feel that feel like they exist to specifically be the only thing you do for a set amount of time. And there's
like
a lot
Pokemon games.
Yeah, well, sort of. Like Pokemon games are,
unless you want to be casual about it.
Yeah,
I feel like Pokemon's pretty multitasky.
Yeah, you can do stuff with Pokemon, but like Tokyo Mirage Sessions is a perfect thing of like, you're only supposed to do one battle a day, because otherwise you get completely exhausted by the second time where you're like, why the hell have I sat here through the same goddamn animations for like 30 minutes for what it feels like 2 minutes of gameplay? And that would be fine if you just put the controller down and moved on with your life after every
There's
battle.
definitely an argument to be made that some games benefit from shorter sessions while other ones want your attention like long term. Because I vaguely got that a little bit of that feeling when I tried to play Animal Crossing that one time, where I was like, I feel it.
Absolutely.
Like, it definitely feels like this game runs out of things for me to do pretty quickly. Well, that's a really special, weird case in its own way, but it's like, now you're supposed to just kind of pick it up for a bit each day, maybe, and not binge it constantly. Although I think a lot of people probably binged it a lot this year.
They were time traveling, which is why they were allowed to binge it, is because they kept changing the dates to keep getting themselves more content. But like Animal Crossing is a play the game on your toilet type game, where you go and take a shit and you're playing Animal Crossing for like 10 minutes, and then you get up and move on with your life for the day. And that's fine. That's enough. You show up, you check in, you do a couple of things like, hey, just wanted to sell this item or wanted to grab this thing that I needed, and
just gonna hop on WoW and do my dailies.
But the thing is,
that's it.
Look at what's that other game that was made by a single dude that is like Animal Crossing?
Return of the Obra Dinn.
Are you talking about Stardew Valley?
Stardew Valley, yeah. Look at Stardew Valley.
Is more like Harvest Moon, which Harvest Moon is. You could argue, I guess, it's kind of like Animal Crossing, but Harvest Moon fills a different void.
Yeah,
it's more of a.
It's definitely a demographic overlap.
Yeah, there's a demographic overlap, but the mechanics in Stardew Valley are more of sim in nature rather than not sim, but like management. Like you are doing some management that you don't need to do in Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing, you can just show up and things happen to you, and you're like, wow. Whereas Stardew Valley, you have to make the farm go.
Yeah, it's long-term planning and like delayed reward, and like because you're literally cultivating.
Yeah, but it's also a lot better for binging. I feel Stardew Valley is.
Well, yeah, because Stardew Valley isn't tied to the real world.
Correct.
In Animal Crossing, the clock's tied to the real clock, whereas in Stardew Valley, another day happens every 20 minutes. And so it just kind of keeps looping, so you get to keep going. It's like the one more turn addiction from like Civ and so on.
Yeah, and it means that there are some people who only have played Animal Crossing at night because
that's when they can play.
Home. Yeah, because they get home from work and they can only play it then, and it's nighttime already. Yeah, and that's the thing. But some people don't. But the goal of Animal Crossing isn't to be a game that you play all day. It's a game you just check in on and you go away. So you can change your system time to like 10 a.m. Check in, go, hey guys, it's sunlight, and then shut the game down and be fine. But yeah, the argument though is that there are some games that definitely feel like they don't expect you to play them in one sitting, or at the very least, they don't expect you to play it for more than an hour at a time.
Like Tamagotchi.
Well, Tamagotchi again, has like you're waiting for something, but
yeah,
I mean, but then you have games like Minecraft is a game you could just play forever and ever and ever, and it won't stop you at any point, nor does it need to, because you tire yourself out in Minecraft. But when you play like a JRPG, you might get tired really quickly because the game itself is exhausting.
There are a lot of games that give you this question of like, what is the pacing like? What is the intended session duration? It's like some games that are a certain range where they like. I got this a little bit with There Is No Game, where like there's some games that are a few hours long, but they don't feel like they have any sort of like they feel like they always have a momentum to them, where there's no brakes on this train and there's no clean places to stop because the game never really stops moving. It's always in the middle of a sequence. And so I was like, where am I intended to like stop for the day and take a break? Because you can't really like quit out and be like, oh, there's nothing happening right now. You have to go walk over there to make the next thing happen. So let's just go ahead and quit now, and when you load it up tomorrow, it'll be exactly here. And it's like, no, you're gonna quit in the middle of the people talking. It's gonna feel like you're Alt F4ing out of the game because it won't stop moving. And then when you come back, it's gonna awkwardly start playing from some spot like 5 minutes ago, and you have to get back to where you left off because it's like that kind of thing. It's like if you had to stop in the middle of Man of Medan because it's just going. Like it's gonna keep going until it's over.
Yeah.
And that's always a little awkward when games are constructed that way.
That's a really interesting problem that you're raising. I didn't realize that.
It's exasperated by Let's Playing because you're like, where can I stop cleanly and know that nothing will be missing between the two videos?
Let's Playing gives you a very good insight into a lot of mechanics in games.
Yeah.
Like ability to change monitors, ability to save, like where can you save games? There's so many like little details. You go like, man, if only some jackass took 3 seconds to think about this from my perspective.
There's just things that come up where it's like Monster Hunter has the cleanest thing ever, where it's like you have a home base, you fly out into the field and do a mission for like an hour, and then you get flung back into your home base, and obviously every time you go there is a clean time to like save and quit. Where like something like Man of Medan is like short enough that like maybe you just beat it in one session anyway, but then games that are a few hours longer, like There Is No Game, that have no breaks on this train but are still like a few hours long, you're like, most people are going to want to stop at some point in this experience, and it's kind of just going, and it kind of leads to an awkward sort of like, you always have to like awkwardly patch it up in a second session, whether you're a Let's Player or just like a normal player, and it always feels slightly weird because you just kind of had to like stop the mid sentence, and then it had to like pick it. The game will just it's like the feeling of like stopping in the middle of a video.
A movie.
It's like when you stop in the middle of like a Netflix stream or a movie or something, and you have to like find your place again because you didn't have like clear episode breaks in a reasonable time where you could go back. It's obviously not like a massive deal breaker. It's just a very observable thing about certain games versus other games. Is like Journey feels like it's designed very deliberately to be beaten in one sitting specifically, so it doesn't feel weird that there's no breaks because the whole game's 90 minutes long. But there's games that feel like there's no clean place to stop for the day that are like 5 hours long. And it's like you start to really appreciate like, I'm in Resident Evil 3 and I am in the save room and the save music room is playing and I will now stop for the day and come back tomorrow and I'll be in the same save room.
Well, you're going to have a harder time with that, Keith, because thanks to the power of quick resume on modern consoles, maybe saving will just be a thing of the past.
As long as they allow me to save scum, that's all I need.
Saving will never be a thing of the past just because certain games benefit from having the risk reward of having a save system tied to locations and resources.
Yeah, though I mean there are plans to try to
But that's a good example though. That's a good example of the idea is the fact that like saves as a concept are themselves and a commentary on this idea, because once upon a time you just had to beat a game like the whole game, and that was every game for a bit, and it was up in the air whether or not stuff's had saves or not. And like
Mario, like the first Mario game had no saving. You either beat it that day or you did not beat it that day.
A lot of kids like leaving their SNES on and stuff like that.
That was a thing. And I think it makes sense.
And this entire genre is based around that. Like roguelikes are based on the repetition because you couldn't save. Because it was supposed to be short.
Yeah, and the idea, and a lot of that idea comes from arcades too, because arcades obviously don't need saves. You just put the quarter in, start your match, and then you either beat it or you don't. And I think so when there was that transition from arcades to consoles, you started seeing a lot more people like, why would I do a save? You either beat it today or you don't, kid, and then you turn it back on the next day and keep trying until you get through it in one sitting.
It always sounded like such magic to me when I heard that, like via like anime and things, that there's like Japanese arcade machines that had memory cards, so you'd like buy a memory card and you would like have it and so on. And I was like,
I have one. I have one of those.
You have an arcade machine?
No, he has a memory card from Japan.
I have a memory card from Japan, and it's yeah, you put it, you put, I think it was like $1. I had to put like $1 in a machine. It prints out this little card. And when you go to the machine, you have to put the card into the machine. And it goes like, oh, hey, it's you. It just says like Andrew. And then you like, this is where you left off in the game. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I can just go to any arcade anywhere in Japan and just put this stupid card in. And because it puts the save data on there, and only that machine can read that save data. And so it's not like there's special assets it has to load or anything. It just goes, well, this card that you have is all the information I need, and I can put, I can just rebuild the game into the exact place that you were at. And it's crazy. It's a crazy, interesting, fun idea, but the practicality of it is so bad.
It's so odd.
It made sense because I'm playing a rhythm game and I'm trying to get the max stars on every single song.
So it's keeping your scores.
Exactly. And because the reason they do it is because not only do you get to keep your scores, but you get to unlock specific units and colors. And those might give you an advantage later on because you get used to using a specific icon and colors. And so like for me, I had like a little dancing Miku, and I needed that Miku because I timed all of my things based on like the button coming to her hair. I knew that was the time I needed to press the button, because by the time I pressed it, she would be over the button. And so like if I tried playing from zero, I would be super screwed because I have to play with a crappy trigger or like a cursor I don't know anymore. And
it's bizarre sounding.
It sounds so weird, but when you're playing the game, you're like, this is so vital. I can't believe they would ever make a game without this. I would die. And then you look over, or I watched Joe play it, and he's got this stupid buffed out card because he has like all these games finished and all these like avatars. He's like, yeah, he's just sitting here playing the thing. I was like, oh, okay. And I started up, I'm like, oh, I only got one thing and one avatar. And I feel kind of like, oh, I could have that one day. Okay, maybe I want that.
They got their claws in you.
Exactly, but it's
now I hate it.
but it's funny because I was watching Joe trying to explain to me how it works, because I was like, okay, I'm not the best at rhythm games, so I was trying to like figure it out, and he's like, okay, you just have to hit now, and I was like trying to hit it, and I was like, I'm still missing. He's like, yeah, I don't use that cursor, I have no idea how to do it. I was like, god damn it.
Why would that be the thing you change? That's so strange.
Because I cannot explain.
It seems like it's the
game,
most potentially damaging to the game thing you could do is have the cursor change so you can't tell how the game plays anymore.
So it only changes if you want it to change. You choose it. So you unlock new cursors and you can just change to whichever ones you want. And some of them you might find are easier to ground yourself, because the way that they make the game challenging is that your cursor is moving around on a screen, and you have to follow the cursor while the background, it's like a fucking Gundam wing fight in the background.
It reminds me of when I found out that like the loot box like costume switches for Ash change her reticle, and I'm like, oh god.
Yes.
Suddenly it affects gameplay, and that's kind of an issue, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's kind of like that. So, but the concept is there and it's functional. But yeah, obviously a lot of games, some games want to go back to that, where it's like, you don't need to save, just either beat it today or you don't beat it today. And in a non-let's playing context, that's okay. You can just like, yeah, well, I'll sit down, I'll play a game for an hour, and if I beat it, I beat it. If not, I'll come back and do it later, or maybe not, and just move on. But you know, when you're trying to do this, you know, when you're trying to like record a full game to upload to the internet, you're like, can I just like stop here? Can I get a save? Can I have other things I need to do today. Can you just make it so I can put the game on pause? And it's like, no, this is casual. Just be casual. I'm like, this is a career. I can't casual a career.
Casual doesn't rhyme with Andrew.
Yeah. Like, can you please? And so, yeah, there's some games I remember Let's Playing and being like, well, I guess I'm beating this today, because otherwise I can't stop.
I've just got to leave it running otherwise. Yeah, like my Skyward Sword playthrough says that I've played like 50 hours because I think I had to stop for the day right when I was in the middle of the cutscene for getting the first like block and discovering where the magic blocks go at the top of town.
Okay.
That introduces the first like structured collect thing that tells you to do the first few dungeons, and I was in the middle of that, and they're about to teach me like the Skyward Sword swing and other things like that was all about to happen, but I was like, I gotta go, like I'm in the middle of the sequence for like an hour, and so I just like in the middle of the dialogue I just let it sit and I just went away, and I came back like 2 days later when I was ready to play that game again. And so, like, in that whole time, Canada's the clock running in game. So it's like, Fee will tell me that you've been playing for like 40 hours, and I'm like, I'm not at the first dungeon yet. So,
you're doing really
hero.
badly.
Yeah,
you're the hero of slow.
Yeah, this is hero of too much time. Am I right? I've been dealing with the memory shit too, where I kind of forgot old consoles were like this a little bit, because the first mainstream popular console to have a hard drive was the Xbox. And even in that generation, its two competitors didn't have one.
The Sega Saturn had memory in it.
Did it have memory in it?
Yeah, I remember that was the only console I have ever had. So I had saves on most of my games.
It feels so alien. Because, it
was amazing. Like, in comparison to all my colleagues that had the PlayStation and they had to pay like $8... at the time, we had a different. So how much was it? Like $40, I think, for a memory card.
Yeah, they were. I was
like,
cheap.
For $40, I can buy 2 games.
But I've been.
But for $40, you can store like 6 games.
But I could already with the Sega Saturn. That was amazing. It was like I played a bunch of games there, and I loved it.
Well, then some genius was like, what if we just put a chip in the cartridge that makes it so it saves
even the PlayStation
the
2 didn't have memory, did it?
It had memory cards, no.
Yeah, you had to use cards. And I've been trying to set up to cover more and more classic games with the Frame Meister and all that. And it's like, it already feels like it's enough to be like, all right, I'm online. And it's like, okay, that's a GameCube. It's got all the right cables. It comes with the controller. It's like, all right, like and
you don't have a memory card.
Yeah, I'm looking at this, and it's like, this bundle looks like they're doing it right. It's got all the things you need to play the game and to be like set to start playing GameCube, and then you got to buy additional controllers if you want more than one. But like that's like a good bundle that makes sense. Then it arrives, and I'm like, wait, I won't be able to save my game. I need to get a memory card. I was like, oh, fuck. It's like, I think I'm all set to start the Halloween thing and play Eternal Darkness. And I'm like, I don't have the ability to save. We're going to have to wait a few more days while I find memory cards, which started a whole other thing, by the way, where like, every time you look up a GameCube memory card on like Amazon or eBay, all the reviews are calling it like fraud. Like it's like these memory cards don't work and they're gonna break in a moment, and they're all like these like there's like an entire like underground market of like Chinese knockoff memory cards that are like all use like official looking packaging and pretend to have the Nintendo seal of approval and be like real memory cards, but they're actually like completely different hardware jammed into a little like identical looking shell. And like it comes down to weird specific details, like finding out that like, oh, Nintendo uses these proprietary like tri-headed screw, like tri-headed like screws in its things. So like they have little 3 prongs, and if you get like anything else, then that's like a different ripoff and everything. And it's like it's such a weird fucking thing, and it's so convoluted that I still can't properly tell if I got a real one or not. All I know is that it seems to be working, so I hope. But I constantly have this thing on my head, hanging over my head, that like maybe at some point it'll just break down and I'll lose my saves, because it's genuinely hard to tell if you're even buying a real one anymore. And on a related note, I have an issue with my FrameMeister, which I've been using since last year, where I realized that there's supposed to be like updates to it, but it can't connect to the internet, and the FrameMeister does not hook up to your computer via USB or anything to like get data from it. So you have to manually deliver patch updates to it via a micro SD card. And the issue I ran into is it can't be an SDXC card, which are all of the modern ones. It has to be a tiny old SDHC, and you have to find that. And it specifically has to be the micro card, not the other type of card. So it's just this whole process. And everything, and it's the same thing again, where like, you look up on like Amazon and other places, all the reviews keep like this thing says it's an HGSC, but it's actually an HGXC, and so on and so forth. And like all these like surprises, like they'll you trying to specifically find this obscure old card, and all the people are saying like, actually this is a ripoff. It's other thing. I gave up. I ordered 3. I'm looking at, right now, I'm going to deal with this after this podcast. I'm looking at a stack of 3 different brands of supposed SDHC micro SD cards, and I'm just going to hope that one of them can be will work, or can be formatted to the correct format to like just deliver this patch. Because guess what? If you don't have this patch, all the menus are in Japanese.
I have a couple of SD. Is it 2 GB the most? Is that the size?
I think it might be, or it might be. I think it might be everything under 32. Might be the cap.
Okay.
Eventually,
because I think I have some specific couple of.
Have you checked eBay?
I think I did at some point.
eBay's probably
but like
even
people
worse.
are talking about it, and I get it. That like, if you look at my footage for Eternal Darkness, it's like it's pretty blurry. I'm not super psyched with it, so I'm hoping that if I update it, I can find. If I can successfully update my FrameMeister, maybe that'll make it look better. But if not, maybe once the menus are finally in English, I can try to find what setting might not be quite right. Because like I don't think my footage from this hardware is looking as good as some other people's is. But it's hard to compare also, because if you look at other people's footage, you can't look at just the game itself, because other people playing it might be playing emulators all the time. Like, so you have to try to find specifically somebody else who's using something to record their like GameCube, and then you have to wonder what they're recording it with, and so on. But it's just like a whole process. But there's also like there's always that detail where I'm like, I don't know, maybe it just looked like this. Like I can't remember. I see certain things are blurry or hard, or a little hard to look at, or like I'm like, I wish this detail looked different, or whatever. But it's like I don't know what it looked like.
You do know like about the differences between modern day LCDs and old school CRTs.
Yeah, there's
and
a lot
stuff
of
like
that stuff where like everything looked blurry or kind of obscured. So like sometimes you're just seeing details that you would have been masked before anyway. But then there's just other times where I'm like, I don't know, the whole screen kind of looks like a brown blur. I feel like maybe it originally looked better than this, but I can't tell because you just don't have anything to compare it to. So I'm trying to diagnose if I can get better visuals out of my FrameMeister or not, which is a fucking expensive ass chunk of hardware that I bought like a year ago. I think they're now going for twice as much. I think they're like $1,000 on Amazon now.
They're like $1,000 on Amazon, but eBay is like, you want it for like $100? Here you go.
Oh God, what happened to that FrameMeister?
They're just like, no box. Like here's a FrameMeister, no box. It's it has the plug-in cables and that's it.
That's the Upscalers, isn't it? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that's the compact
they're
upscaler.
upscalers, but more importantly than the upscaling, as Andrew will know from our attempt at filming the bouncer, my two goals are: one, getting HDMI so I can put it into my Elgato, and two, de-interlacing. Because if you play, so many old games are interlaced, and if you record them via an Elgato, then you get combed footage, and it looks horrible. So I'm trying to decomb everything, or specifically decombing is so hard and kind of impossible in many cases. Like especially since when you record through an Elgato, when you record through Elgato, it's already compressed. It's also not being output at the original resolution anyway, so it's already fucked. So you can't decomb it. So you really just want to deinterlace it before it reaches the recording software in the first place. Yeah. Because for those that don't know, back when we had interlaced video, every horizontal line of pixels would be rendered every other frame. So every frame, when we talk about like 60 frames per second and so on, that'd be 30 A frames and 30 B frames, if you want to call them that. I don't know what the terms are necessarily, but
that's correct.
That's an example at least of how you'd think about it. It's like every other frame all the way down the entire screen. So half of them are refreshing on the first frame and half of them are refreshing on the second frame, and they're doing that 60 frames per second. So each of them is only getting 30 frames per second per half of the image. A
lot of television was still like that until very recently.
Yeah.
Like you could see, even in the 2000s, you could see a lot of shows that... Sopranos is like this, I think. Was like
it makes them blurry and a lot of others.
Yeah, because especially when they go sideways, you can see like them all... Call me, because you get half the frames, so it's all weird.
Yeah,
I like to imagine that television was made on purpose not to do those shots, just so it wouldn't look as bad. So like even the art medium was affected by that particular technological limitation. Maybe
it's hard to look for like comb footage necessarily, but if you look up decomb footage, like DECOMB footage on like image search, you'll get a lot of examples of like before and afters of dealing with combing, like trying to decomb footage. And the befores are what we're talking about, where it's just like, it's an effect that you've seen before, even if you don't know you've seen it, where you just see this weird issue where something's made of horizontal lines because two different frames are kind of showing up at the same time.
It's a good video for technology connections to make something about, maybe.
Yep, and it's what all of our fucking bouncer footage looked like when we tried to play it, which is frustrating.
Yeah.
A lot went wrong in that playthrough, because also we found out in the final boss fight that the whole time our controller had been broken.
Because you couldn't do a specific attack.
We couldn't do any of the good attacks. We were only doing light basic attacks. Like, wow, this game is way harder than I remember. It's like because we couldn't do a single cool move because you had to hold down left trigger, and that button specifically was broken. But we were getting bad feedback because the game itself, a feature of the PS2 was the fact that you could press buttons to different intensities to get different results. So you could lightly or heavily press a button, which is still a feature on a lot of games with triggers, but not really a thing anymore for face buttons. I don't think like that feature wasn't really used that much, but Bouncer uses that.
It was the original 3D touch.
So like how heavily or lightly you press the X button makes you do two different attacks. So we would do different things at different times, and so we were just convinced all those super attacks were just tied to how hard you pressed a button, and we thought we were doing them, but we weren't. They were different things entirely. So the game got real easy when you figured out, like, oh yeah, the super attack, you just hold down left trigger and press triangle at all. It's like, what? That's super easy. This is no
cheats enabled.
We fucked this entire playthrough up.
Wow.
I remember the first time, like I mentioned before, the Sega Saturn, it had a SCART cable, the European version. Which is, I think it's like composite a little bit, except it's got Lumia as well in it. and I played it on a really old television, and it looked fine. It was how it looked, but I didn't because it was an old television. It didn't have the SCART port, so it had I had a converter for the old school like antenna cable. You know that connector, the one that has just a little pin in the middle, and it's like a round thingy. I don't know the name of that.
Wait, what?
Do you know how you could connect your antenna to the television in old televisions?
Okay.
Do you know that connector?
Talking about a coaxial cable?
Coaxial cable, that's the one, yeah.
Okay.
So I had a converter for the SCART cable to the coaxial cable, so I played like that forever. And then I remember being just amazed at the colors and just the vividness and the sharpness on also a CRT television, but I connected the SCART cable directly to the television. It was like a really cheap one, but like the difference was night and day. So I think even then, it's very easy for people to have very different experiences just based on.
I remember having an adapter for my Super Nintendo that because
the Super Nintendo is Lumia, right?
So we got a Super Nintendo, yes, but the TV we had didn't have those outputs.
Yeah.
And my parents couldn't afford a new TV, so we had to get like this really weird.
Yeah, it was a really special.
A really shitty block that you attach to the back of the Nintendo that you can plug a coaxial cable into. Yeah. Or you can plug it into the back of the coaxial cable on your TV. And so then we had to buy a splitter at Radio Shack, so that way I could plug the Super Nintendo in, but also the cable can go into the thing because, parents want to watch TV. And
like noobs.
Yeah, and so that was like, it's so funny. I had to learn how to make that work because I had to constantly be switching between the two. And so I figured out how that worked, how to switch between the cable and the Super Nintendo when I wanted to play. And and now you can just like, everything's HDMI. Everything's just one cable and it's nice. But
is it one cable though?
HDMI made our lives a lot easier.
Yeah, HDMI is just
easier.
Everything. Made everything easier.
But like, do you connect? No, like if you have a console and if you have like a, I don't know, like a TiVo or whatever. What is the name of the thing? You know what I'm talking about?
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, it's
a cable.
I guess
like if you have cable,
thing.
Yeah.
If you have like regular cable boxes, they're all HDMI now too.
Yeah, but like you need two cables. You need one for the cable box and the other one for the console, right? Or can you connect the console to the cable box?
Well, it depends. So an Xbox One allows you to plug your TV in directly to the Xbox, and then your Xbox to the TV, and it will do you can just switch over to TV.
Oh, that's interesting.
The PlayStation 4 just kind of shrugs and goes, buy a TV with two HDMI ports, you cheapo. And
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's not just one HDMI cable; it's multiple. You need more than one.
Yeah. No, but you only need one cable.
What I'm saying is HDMI made things easier. It's that you have one cable that works for everything.
Oh, for everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Not that it's like a tree of cables or anything that magically connects to everything at once, but just the fact
you can
that
also
you don't have to worry if things won't work.
Yeah, yeah.
And
unless they have HCC something or other.
No, you can disable that.
Yeah,
with the right
for
splitters.
Recording.
So it depends. Certain splitters are compliant and other ones aren't.
So right.
That's the whole process. Is when they updated the HTCP for the PS3, I was like, oh, suddenly I just can't record anything on the PS3 because back in the day I had the Hauppauge that had other cable types, but at this point I just use an Elgato that just has HDMI. So if they suddenly update one day to make it impossible to do HDMI recording, then I'm like in trouble, which did happen when I was doing Nier Automata. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and finally go and finish my playthrough of not Samaras 3, Drakengard 3, which is tied to Nier and all that in that universe. And then I found out the hard way. They're like, oh wait, I can't record any PS3 games right now. I had to like go find another like not HDCP compliant like splitter that I could use basically just to strip HDCP in order to work around their shit and record anyway.
Those are like
that was such a terrible thing, HTC, because it's all because of the Blu-ray player at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter for anything technically speaking.
Well, if you want to be super technical, it's all because movies, it's all because movie company or movie studios don't want you to steal their movies, which.
Because who's going to use a PlayStation for that?
It's so fucking
they think
easy.
Recording that footage is the easiest way to steal the video, and it's
right?
like
they act like a computer doesn't exist
from the Blu-ray. It's easy.
I've been doing this since the early 2000s, and you know what I didn't have back then? A PS4. So let me tell you how easy it is to just steal your movie. I can do it right now without anything else but a computer and a DVD reader. And the idea of like HTC is, or whatever it is just like
HTC,
it's just a really bad band-aid over a problem that doesn't need fixing. Like, if you want to stop people from pirating movies, just don't make movies. Like, that's your only choice. Like, people are going to steal it, and you're not going to stop them from stealing it by making consoles not be able to play on certain devices, because that's not how people are stealing things. So all you haven't solved any problems. You've just made more problems.
It's so hard not to just accidentally say HTTP.
I keep wanting to say HTC, which is a phone developer.
Was a phone developer. They've gone bust.
Are they dead?
I'm sure most of them have.
Actually, I don't know if they have.
No, I think HTC is still around, right?
Doesn't everything just get eaten by something else anyway?
Wikipedia says is a Taiwanese consumer electronics, so is a good sign. They are going down in revenue and things, though.
Well,
it's all red arrows.
It's not looking bright for Taiwan, but it's okay. They're
coronavirus is here to even everything out. Demonetized.
They have the Vive, which is I think the only good thing that HTC still makes.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
isn't it super expensive though?
It is, but it's the only thing keeping that company afloat. No one else
but it's
buys
also really
anything
good,
else
isn't
they
it?
make. Depends on what you think anymore. Because technically, Steam's VR is the best on the market right now.
I've only ever wore VR on a development kit for the for that one that's from Facebook. Which one is it?
Oculus.
The Oculus, yeah, but it was like before they got bought, but it was still a development kit, so it was like it wasn't 100% as far as people tell me anyway.
I have a buddy who owns the, I think, like second generation HTC
that's the one.
Vive.
Oh no,
and it's a pain in the fucking ass. It's a really not fun thing to set up where you're like, cool, I'm going to put some, camera tripods down, put a block on that one, put a block on this one, and then it's pointing in a direction so it can make the square space. And then you have to like put the helmet on with you look like Ghost in the Shell cables coming out the back and you can just trip over them. And it's a pain in the ass, but it was immersive and fun. I actually had more fun playing the Samsung VR. So like 4 generations ago, Samsung had like a VR headset you could buy. And that was actually fun because it was wireless, it attached to your phone, so you just put your phone into the headset and then you just play that way. And you're like, "Oh, this is so easy. I don't have to do," and it's a phone. Phones look fine for how close I'm putting the screen to my face.
The problem is the frame rate. Like 60 frames is not enough. I
mean, sure, I guess.
Like some people, me included, like the motion sickness, it's alleviated by higher frame rates because it's easier for the brain to process the image more intuitively. So you're not expecting. So your brain doesn't expect it to be like a television thing, and that's where a lot of the motion sickness comes from.
I've never played a non 60 FPS VR.
No,
so I don't know. The HTC Vive is only 60.
No, is it? It's 90. As far as I know.
I think the Vive's higher.
Now they are, but the one I played was only 60.
Oh, maybe.
Okay.
I thought the one that was weaker was the PSVR.
Yeah, because that's 60 for sure.
Yeah, the original. I know I think it's a second generation Vive. I don't know what they're on now. Now they call it a Cosmos series, so definitely not these ones, because these have like 7 cameras on them for some reason. The model I was on they were always 60 FPS. So I never had motion sickness from them. So I don't know.
I remember I learned about motion sickness watching my cousin playing Quake 2. Because it's a very fast-paced first-person shooter back in the day, and even still to this day. I just didn't know where his camera was going to go, so I was watching the things, and he kept moving the camera around a lot. And at the age of 12, I think I started getting, sweating a lot and being really sick all of a sudden while watching him play, and I didn't like that.
I've never got any kind of motion sickness from playing video games. But I remember, like, my mom would see me playing Mario, and she would look away because, like, she couldn't look at the camera like swooping around everywhere.
Well, looking at other people playing or controlling the camera specifically, I think is what gets me, and I think what gets multiple people. But it's not.
I think I feel motion sickness watching the Guitar Hero Rock Band style.
Oh, really?
If I watch other people play it, if I am playing it, I don't feel it. But if I watch other people do it, I do.
That's different.
Yeah.
I don't get any of that, but I do get this weird optical illusion where if I look at certain things after playing for a bit, it looks like they're scrolling a bit. Yeah. There's a weird illusion that looks like it's moving, even though it's obviously not. Like you not literally see a thing change places, but there's a weird impression of movement in the middle of your eyes.
You get like a ghosting where the object doesn't move, but you see the object, you see the picture of an object go like up, and you're like, what?
It's like it's not moving, but your brain reads it as moving, even though it's not getting any visual information that it's moving.
Because you just spent like time watching things move.
Yeah, you just intuitively feel it's moving somehow.
I have a similar problem, although it's not. I don't think the reason is the same, which is with Tetris. If I play Tetris for more than 10 minutes, I start doing Tetris in real life when I stop playing the game, and I don't like it at all. Because I can't concentrate.
Move?
Yeah, I'm just like, I'm looking at things and, that's that shape. Oh, that's that shape. I'm going to fit it all. And it's like, it's terrible for my head. I hate it. I can't play Tetris very much.
I just don't get a ton out of Tetris, I guess.
Tetris, I enjoy Tetris a lot, but only because I enjoy solving puzzles, and I think Tetris is like a perfect feedback loop for that, where I'm creating my own puzzles I have to solve. Yeah. Which is, I think, why I don't like Tetris 99 is I don't like that other people intrude on my puzzle solving. Like, it really upsets me where I'm trying to play Tetris and someone's like, here's a thing, and I'm like, I didn't do that. Yeah. Like, I don't like those kind of stuff. I don't like Tetris under pressure. That bothers me.
Not because I can't always with the down key on.
That's the thing, is like I've won tons of Tetris 99, but the problem is I don't get enjoyment out of it. It's not fun for me. I don't want to win at Tetris. I just want to play Tetris. It's just a fun, relaxing puzzle game to do. And so, like, making it competitive is like, sure, I guess, but it's just a lot of like slap. You know, you're just throwing pieces on the ground so fast, and it's just
happens a lot with puzzles. Actually, when you make it competitive, not only does it change how the game is played because different strategies need to be made, but it also, I feel that. It happens with Sudoku, for example. Solving a Sudoku puzzle by yourself, you're always going to be trying to solve it with logic and all the normal strategies. But if you're doing it competitively, there's other strategies. Like, for example, in Sudoku, one of the things that happens is that if you spot a move that or a number that if it existed there, it would break the puzzle. In a way that some puzzles can be broken in the sense that they have multiple possible solutions. So when you're learning Sudoku, you come to see these examples where there's pairs of squares where there can be two numbers. So one of the strategies that they do is that they use what's called the rule of uniqueness, which is the uniqueness of the solution. Which is, if, for example, it could be a 1 or a 2, but if it were a 1, then the puzzle would have multiple solutions, and they learn how to spot that. So competitive Sudoku is fundamentally different. Like somebody who is very good at solving Sudoku goes and tries to be competitive, and they can't because the strategies are fundamentally different, and it's not as logical. It's more about trying to read into the minds of the creators of the game. So I think that probably isn't exclusive to Tetris or Sudoku. The competitiveness always changes, I feel.
God, I imagine the most boring competitive puzzle is probably crossword.
That probably is competitive crossword
puzzles.
Like, what a
just
boring...
watching a bunch of people try to think of what something is.
Yeah, it's like it's just
crosswords
people. It's just a bunch of people typing quietly, thinking to themselves, and it just
I need
sounds
a 4
like
letter.
yeah, you're like 4-letter word for hating everything. Fuck. All right, got it. It just like there's no. I can't imagine what a competitive. Like, what does a room of competitive crossword players look like? Do they just have, like, dictionaries attached to their hip?
Does that room exist?
I think
I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
it has to exist somewhere.
Oh, God.
But it's
just
not
depends on
if you look
quality.
at Scrabble, for example, Scrabble is fundamentally competitive. So it doesn't change. So if you want to make it a competition, then sure, it's already that.
It's just good players or something.
Yeah, I suppose.
You just add
Playing
knives.
3-dimensional.
Oh, God.
Knife fight Scrabble. Go.
I wouldn't want... No. Blood is all everybody writes.
Blood? They write blood in blood.
Looking it up, it doesn't... I can't, like, find an annual competition for crossword puzzles, so I imagine it's not a very big sport. But I'm sure there has to have been at some point a competition for crossword puzzles, and I imagine a lot of elderly people showed up ready to do it. Well,
maybe not in this year, but I think there are certain the New York Times I think organizes competitive crossword puzzles.
Wall Street Journal I think is the one who does. I think they're the ones who have the famous crossword puzzle.
One.
Well, that's the one that's what's the word?
That's the hardest ones, or the people like.
Yeah, like they have
the God puzzle.
The most challenging. That's the one you would see people like do in the back of the paper. Is like that. It's the Wall Street Journal crossword puzzle. It's like I don't. Sure, man. Whatever.
Is it the Wall Street Journal or the New Yorker?
No, I think it's Wall Street Journal.
Googling like most famous crossword puzzle. What's the one in all the movies? New York Times.
I was thinking,
is it?
That's what Google says.
What does Google even know?
I was thinking if Japanese has anything like crossword puzzles. Japanese has all of the puzzles. They don't even need the crossword puzzles. They have all. There's so many Japanese puzzles.
I would fucking hate a Japanese crossword puzzle. What an absolute ass of a fucking puzzle that would be.
It'd be so difficult to solve, though, because the meaning changes.
One fucking kanji could be like 7 different words, and trying to mix that into like other words, you're like, yeah, what is...
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's like the 4D chess of crossword puzzles.
It would be awful.
Like
there is a Japanese style.
This kanji means a different word, a different thing in every word that it crosses.
Their grid is so basic in the Japanese one, because there's no way. It would be absolute anarchy to try to like have a huge ass crossword puzzle for Japanese, for kanji. You would just... It would never end. Swedish style looks like a fucking bingo game. I don't know what the hell happened there. Someone woke up and was like, look at... Hold on.
Let me look it up.
Look at this. Here, it's in the Discord chat. That's the Swedish crossword, which
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm starting to have doubts here. I think you just mixed Scrabble and crossword puzzles.
It looks like Chutes and Ladders, or like an engineering, like an electrician diagram.
A little bit, yeah.
Like an engineering diagram.
Yeah. Like it looks like it's measuring current.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. There's also like cipher crosswords, which sounds.
Oh yeah, that's the one the one I found out about recently. They're really complicated to understand.
That sounds like ass. Could you imagine?
That sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
it's really weird because basically what happens if we're talking about the same thing is like the clue itself is like all it's like a secret. So I could be telling you 3 different words, and you're supposed to make an anagram out of synonyms of those words, for example, or you're supposed to think of a word that is related to all those 3 different words and then put it into the thing, or just mix those words together. It could be something simple, it could be something complicated. So it is, in some ways, it can be easier because you can just focus on making the secrets in the clues instead of being difficult words. I think, but in other ways, it's just difficult because it's secrets.
I think if I ever started a war, I would do all of my communications in cipher crosswords, and you have to fill in. So the
you're like a fucking serial killer that wants to get caught.
No, but that's the thing.
It's like you can find out my answers and catch me, but only if you're worthy.
Yeah, I want to basically be the Riddler. That would
First,
be fantastic.
you must answer my questions 3.
Could you imagine if it's just something basic, like the hints are something like, oh, what is a really tall building? You're like, oh, a skyscraper. And it's like, oh, okay, now you have to turn that into the correct cipher. It's like, what? What cipher did you use? I don't know. I hope you figured it out. Like, it could be Caesar. It could not. It could be this one. It could not. Like, and that would be ass. Like, every answer is its own unique cipher, and together it makes a message once you're done with it. But you have to figure out which cipher I'm using for the basic word, which would be
nobody would bother.
Which is the point, because then you have Zodiac killer stuff where you're like, fuck them. Like, I don't care anymore. Just whatever, dude. Like, I'm not reading your papers. It sucks. I can't imagine a police department looked at that and was like, I'm not going to figure this shit out. Fuck it. And they just hand it to the FBI, and the FBI is like, I'm not going to figure this shit out.
They give it to like this master cryptologist, and they've got to solve it, and then they finally get it, and it's just like, lol, look at this loser. That's all it says. Just wasting their time.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to know, like, all of the Zodiac killer messages, just like, why did you waste time solving this? You could have caught me in the time it took you to solve this message. It's like, oh fuck, like, he got us. It took us 50 years to solve it. Like, I don't know. I always hear about, you like ciphers and stuff in war, and you think like, who's the jackass?
No, but in war,
like, who came up with that?
The thing is that doesn't happen anymore because now we just have, I don't know, SHA-256 or something.
I was gonna say now we have a computer do it, and you have to be like, well, is my computer strong enough to break that computer's encryption? And it's like, no, it's not. Okay, well, like,
my computer can beat up your computer.
That literally is just warfare now. Yeah.
Back then, you had to have people decoding and encoding. You had actual decoders, like people doing all the. Can you imagine? You had to.
I mean, I remember. It's just
the pressure if you fuck up.
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, this is not an E, it's an A. No,
I guess we're at war now.
Could you imagine the crunch? Like, they must have been the worst crunch time ever. Like, you go to work and you're deciphering one message. You're like, okay, I'm about done with this. When someone comes, it's like, we just found a message and I don't know what it says, but we found like 16 people like in a building, and they were huddled together around this message. So it must be really important, guys.
It's
like,
worse
you solve
than
it
that
today, and it's like, I don't fucking.
It was the actual Morse code operators that would receive the Morse code and would like write down already decoded. So it was like real time that they were decoding things. You know what I mean?
I think the best cipher that ever existed was us using the Native American language. Because we basically wiped almost all of them out, and we were the only ones who had them. And so you have them communicate with each other, and no one knew what the fucking language was. So they're just like, is it a cipher? Is it a language? I've never heard this language. It's like, yeah, I know, because we almost wiped the whole civilization.
Welcome to Connecticut. Yeah. Try to write that.
And by best, you mean most horrifying.
I mean, it works.
It's like the secret secure way of communicating is to communicate in a dead language. And it's like, how do you know it's a dead language? Because you killed it. Like, oh no! I don't like this story.
I mean, I imagine...
but it's a good idea to keep in the back of your head for when you're writing your fiction novel. It's like, that's a fucked up concept to think about.
so you don't do it this again by mistake, which is the worst kind of doing it again.
I mean, there is.
I don't know.
I thought about that for what is it? There's like 1 or 2 people left that speak the Mayan language, and it's like that right there. That's already the most secure code ever in existence.
There's a lot of languages that very few people speak.
I heard some kind of stat that like X number of languages die every year, and it's like a shockingly large number. And I'm also but like at the same time, I'm like. It's like on some level you're like, oh, that seems kind of tragic, but on the other hand, you're like, how do we have so many languages to lose?
It's sad. It's bad because of like the diversity of language adds to it's like losing different types of course on a much bigger scale, but it's like losing different types of musical genres, because you can make the same song, you can write the same lyrics, or you can even have the same sort of emotions expressed in different musical genres, but it of course sounds very different, and of course different musical genres will allow for different versatility wherever you want. Different,
even beyond genre, it's often interesting to hear about like fundamentally all Western music uses certain language and structure in a way that like if you go to a certain other region, it follows completely different rules and it sounds almost alien. Because you realize that all the genres that you've ever listened to all collectively still use a certain form of language and structure that's underlying all of it, and timing and certain rules, and that can just be gone in a different place. And you're like, ooh.
Language is
in
tough.
music there's a bigger overarching boogeyman, which is the fact that you want music to sell. If you ignore that, it immediately jumps up in creativity and diversity. But I know what you're referring to, which is the Western musical conventions, and that as well for sure.
Yeah, if this is how you all make art, then that's fucking depressing.
I have a really weird view of language where it's not great that it's going away, or like it's not great that languages are dying off, but it's really great that languages are dying off.
I can see that.
Because it means we're funneling into one language, and I'm just really, really tired of us not just communicating the same way.
You need to be aware as well that of the limitations of knowing only one language.
Sure, because I get that, but also communication should be as easy as possible.
Yeah, it's two conflicting sets of gain and loss.
Yeah, I understand the cultural
it's helpful
loss
if everyone can talk to each other.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is I want everyone to just talk to each other, but I also understand that the culture part is important. So yeah, don't lose it. But also, just could we not talk differently anymore? It would be really great.
I understand. I understand that impulse. I felt that as well the first time I learned the English properly, and I was like, why don't we just speak English, all of us? Because
I don't even
all the
care
movies are in English.
I don't care what language you choose. I just care that there's one uniform language that we use to communicate nationally. And then there's a language of here's your local language and here's your world language. Everyone needs to know this one so we could just not fucking die. And this is the one you talk to all of your friends and family because you care about them. And not
you wouldn't be able to maintain that though.
Well, that's the thing. Is eventually you can, because all the other languages die off, and there's only just the one left.
I don't think you'd be able to do that. The amount of local you can see that, even Latin, for example, is a good example. It's the most well-known example, as far as I know, anyway. But there's a lot of languages that spread out across the land, and it just creates different Creole styles and different influences, and it changes, even down to the
language is always evolving, so that's why English here is different from English in Europe because they have different words, they have different slang, they have different situations that they use.
Even the accent, the accent, because look at a native Spanish speaker that drops or tends to drop the end or the last consonants of words, where a start becomes a star, for example.
I don't know about that. I think that's just a failure to use the language.
No, but the British do the same. For example, heart is not heart, it's har.
That's a failure to use the language. There's a letter there. Use the letter. If you don't use the letter, then don't put the letter there.
No, wait, I'm thinking of the R, not the. So hot would be the hot.
Yeah, I say horror.
Yeah, it's horror.
What?
Y'all want to watch a horror movie?
What is the alternative? Horror?
Well, you were talking about not pronouncing it, and I'm like, I pronounce it a little bit.
A letter at the end is usually
there's a lot. There's a lot. Like
it's not a silent letter. You can have
button.
silent letters usually happen in the middle of a word, not the end of a word.
But I think isn't it the T? Yeah, it is like a but. No, it's not.
But
yeah, I swear.
Button to button.
You know what I'm talking about? How the T's get dropped at the end of words by certain British accents?
That's just a bad accent. Yeah,
It's a bad accent.
But that's not the right way to say the word.
It is the right way in their accent.
Like Gal
Then can you imagine
Gadot.
if everybody spoke English? How it wouldn't be just the British doing that. It would be everybody. The Russians would have a way of doing it. The Indonesians would have another one.
That's why like BBC English exists, is because it is the correct way to pronounce words.
Yes, imperialism will fix your language.
I mean, it's not imperialism. It's just if you don't have some kind of standard to go off of, then
that's what imperialism is. Oh, I mean, not just, but still.
But yeah, I mean, there has to be a starting point. Otherwise...
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that there has to be an ending point.
Because technically Russian is English if you want to just say it is. You're just like, well, you just don't understand it because you don't speak their English. And it's like, no, that's not English.
You're not speaking the same letters, dude. That's why.
But they are. They're still using the same sounds. It's not like we all have different voice boxes.
The reason why you don't understand Russian is because you're not speaking the same letters.
No, but I'm saying, like, that's the thing. Is like, technically, if you don't have a standard for what everything is supposed to sound, like a language sounds like, then everything could just be that language.
But the thing, like, I think the accents
you can make
change.
The same sounds.
The accents change. Absolutely, I think so.
I don't think Southern people who speak with a Southern accent aren't speaking a different English. They're speaking a more broken English. They're just not speaking it completely. They're just dropping certain letters and abbreviating stuff in a way that is convenient and easy, but it's not unique or not its own different language. It's just, you just didn't do English all the way through. You gave up halfway through English, which is like, all right, sure, you can do that. And some people may not understand you, but it's not different English.
I think that's most dialects are essentially a variation of simplifying a language or cutting corners a bit.
Oh, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying. There needs to be a baseline. Like that's why you have a like there's the core English, and then people just change it as they want from there.
Like the stereotypical Midwestern accent that everybody learns when they want to be a newscaster.
Yeah.
Wait, that's a thing?
Yes. There's literally an accent that I guess in a pronunciation style that people use to be like a reporter. Like that's why they all talk the same.
I've never noticed. I don't listen to a lot of reporters.
It's like BBC English. There's a specific type
all
of
those
language.
newscasters represent a country that speaks like a dozen different like variations of English. Like you don't have like a news weather reporter that sounds like a Bostonian.
Boston,
but I want it.
I think there are. You probably.
I think I know what the Boston accent is.
It might be in local news, but none of the stuff that like throughout the world. Like
it happens here in Portugal as well. Like the flat accent of Portuguese that you see in television.
Yeah.
Is it like it's pretty difficult for me to sound like that because my accent is so thick.
There's choices being made. Like there's a deliberate choice when you like if you're in England and it's like. Does the is the newscaster going to sound like a chav, or are they going to sound like they're from the north or something?
They should be all Cockney. Every newscaster should.
Yeah, it should be as clear and understandable for every different type of speaker. Is the goal? Is that there should
is anime voiceover in English specifically? Is it also the Midwestern style?
Wait, what's it?
It depends on the character.
Because I notice a lot in anime, because the English in anime is very different from the normal English that people speak, at least in the YouTube videos and television.
Anime voice acting, anime and video game voice acting is kind of its own weird thing too, because there's a really strange, like pause-heavy form of voice acting that sounds very, very melodramatic and enunciated.
Yeah.
That is like, it's not how anyone speaks, but it's also not how actors act. Like in movies. It's like a weird made up form of English almost.
I always thought it was because of making sure the kids understand what is being said. but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Like Japanese anime or Japanese anime also talks in a way that no one does. It's like you can't learn Japanese through watching anime because it's not the correct way that people speak.
Yeah,
people
that's interesting.
People are like "Gomennasai." Like that's a weird way to say that.
There's also an aspect like when you watch like children's cartoons in the United States. There's a particular it's a particular kind of speaking that doesn't come up anywhere else. They're kind of yelling all the time.
Oh yeah, that aggravates me so much.
In a particular and specific form of like really clear speaking that isn't really from anywhere.
It's a little bit like YouTube let's play videos, to be fair.
Sometimes.
Not everybody, obviously.
Depends on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, there's definitely
if you're Andrew playing Super Mario jetpack stream thingy.
Jetpack stream thingy.
I don't know the name of the game.
GameCube classic.
You're talking about Sunshine with the flood.
Sunshine, that's the one.
Yeah, that shit.
No, Super Mario jetpack stream thingy.
That's forever now.
There is definitely there is definitely a specific type of English that's used in media, and it changes based on the type of media, which is confusing. But also kind of at some point you kind of become numb to it. You don't really think about it. You're just like, that's just how they talk, I guess. Whatever. As long as you understand the words being said, you don't really think too much about the way it's being said, unless you can't understand the words being said. So like the moment you can't understand it, then you're like, what did you do wrong? How did you mess this up? It's very easy. But like
it's
if
like
you can
non-native speakers voice acting in video games where they sound very fluent, but sometimes they don't even say the word that is there.
Yeah, or like if you listen to somebody who doesn't speak your language natively speak, you go like, wait, what happened? Wait, how did you mess that up? What happened?
My favorite experience was listening to I don't remember who it was. I know it was after I started doing YouTube. I think it was Bumpy McSqueakums. He imitated Portuguese, and he sounded like a Portuguese person saying Portuguese things, but he didn't say anything. And it was like the wildest thing, because it's like... Because it sounds right, but it isn't.
So it's like that one like comedy performance music video thing where someone was like, "Here's what English sounds like to non-English speakers," and he just uses a bunch of like English phonetics, but isn't saying anything in English.
Yeah, it's so wild. It's so weird.
It's also like it's really dissonant to like hear somebody speaking your language, but not in any of the like accents or dialects that you have been exposed to or can accept. Because it's often like. It happens when it's like it's a particular country you're not used to encountering people from necessarily, and so it's not a variation of an accent you're used to. Like it's not like, oh, this is an English person speaking English, or this is a Japanese person speaking English. Like there's like certain things you've encountered. If you encounter a completely new version, sometimes the effect is that they sound like a bot. Like they sound like because it's not just
they're
that
making
they're not.
it up.
Basically. Yeah, it's not just that they're pronouncing words wrong or that they're getting or like they might skip a word here and there and not quite structure their sentences right. It's like the way they pronounce each word, like the tone of each word is wrong.
Oh,
like
I see.
They don't say a sentence the way a sentence sounds. Where like it starts at this tone and ends at that tone, and that's what sentences sound like. Like
some languages.
Yeah, because certain languages handle them completely differently, and so you're like,
my favorite example. It's probably not the best. It's the Irish accent, and specifically the song that it has. I love it.
I mean, for me, that was there is no game.
Oh yeah, but that guy is just he is out. He's something. He's extra, really.
Yeah, but he's also like his accent is like. Completely unfamiliar to me, and every
he also
sentence,
doesn't know how to pronounce half the words.
Yeah, but also every sentence sounds wrong. Like he sounds it on like he'll end it on like a low note or a high note, like the wrong intonation. So like almost every sentence is intoned wrong, and it's like doing my head in throughout the entire playthrough because I'm like
yes,
it's like they just don't register correctly, even though he's saying the words he's saying, and I'm like what.
And then it's
so hard to explain what's wrong.
He uses free to play as a noun instead of an adjective, and I can't have any more of this.
That's also that's definitely the way I can tell a native speaker, like a native English speaker versus a non-native, is usually the way that they do the ups and downs in certain words. Like I've listened to like the VTubers I listen to that try to speak English. I go like, that's not how you say that word. You completely did it inversely. But it's great because that, you know, that's like, okay, I know you're genuine. But
it's the kind of details that like are hard to even articulate what's going wrong when it's happening, but there's just a dissonance that's occurring, and you keep thinking about it. And you're like, wait, that sentence just didn't go where I thought it was going to go. Just over and over again every time they speak.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I think like I don't know if you've ever had that experience trying to learn. I know you learned German and Spanish, Keith.
I didn't learn it really, but I took German, and I think Andrew took Spanish.
I think it's the...
isn't that why you're mad at Spanish, just because you had to take it in high school?
Yeah, that's what I remember.
It is.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you've ever came to this...
I'm mad because I had to take it, and then before I graduated, they changed that rule, so you didn't have to take a language to graduate. Yeah. So I had wasted my time learning Spanish. And also, I was double mad because I went to that stupid high school because they promised they would teach me Japanese. And not enough people signed up, and they didn't have Japanese. And I was like, I don't want any of these fucking languages I'll never go to. They're like,
really?
Yeah, but what about... Yes. Twice it happened.
Japanese wasn't popular enough for a class to happen? That's kind of funny.
No, so
you think there'd be enough weebs every year to just take it.
I'm
surprised.
So they fucked me on two promises. I went there because they promised me they were going to have a JavaScript class that I can learn Java. And they promised they were going to have
You noob! JavaScript is not Java. What are you talking about?
Sorry, you know what I mean. Like they were going to teach me programming. They were going to teach Java, and I was like, okay, cool, I'm down for programming. And I wanted to learn Japanese, and like we're going to have Japanese. Like that's all. I want both those classes. I showed up my first day of school. No one signed up enough for both those classes. Why am I here? I don't want to be here.
That's a nightmare scenario.
We went to a pretty small high school. Like I took German, and there were 4 years of German, but there were only 3 German classes.
There were 4 years of Cisco, and there were only enough people for like
2 classes or something. Yeah,
yes.
Because Andrew was in the high level Cisco class, and I was in the intro to Cisco class, and they were the same class. They were like taught at the same time in the same classroom because there was so few people. And yeah, like you took German 1 and German 2 as 2 separate classes with separate sets of students, but then German 3 and 4 were just the same classroom of people. Together at the same time because there weren't enough for them to exist as separate classes. So our poor teacher had to teach 3 and 4 at the same time and just kind of figure it out.
But you know what class had enough students every time? Fucking ROTC. Worthless ass fucking waste of time.
It was because everyone wants to be a little soldier boy.
Yeah, well, and Andrew wants to learn Japanese.
ROTC is basically practice military.
You have that in school?
Yeah, no, American schools are terrifying. You pledge the flag every day like a bunch of fascists. And then there's an entire class dedicated to like marching around with an unloaded rifle and like doing poses and taking commands and shit. Like that's your daily, just a daily class you do every day.
It goes more than that. ROTC is literally... Basically, I'm not old enough to sign up for the army yet, but I'm promising that I will by taking this class. And
dude,
so you
that
have to
class changed people that I knew.
I bet it did.
It creeped me out.
Holy
I bet
shit.
it did.
They turned into different people.
So every Monday, they had to come in dressed in their uniform. And they spent the whole day wearing that uniform. And so you could tell who was in ROTC because you would come into class and be like, hey, everybody, how's it? Why are you
they also
like military man?
They also all suddenly had like really short haircuts and really stiff, rigid people and really off-putting, like they were alien drones. It was so fucking creepy.
You want to talk about knowing there were bots?
It's straight up indoctrination.
Like it was. You could tell. Yeah, you could tell.
How do you do, fellow kids? Yeah, they're suddenly 40.
Suddenly 40. I've been to Vietnam.
How many people know that? How many people know that military, like that there is inside of some American schools, there is a JRTC.
Yeah, foreigners freak out when they find out about JRTC and when they find out about like the pledge. They're like, you fucking what? Are you North Korea?
the people you pretend to be better than.
The pledge is not fine.
It's super creepy.
It is so not fine.
It is, but you don't have to
it's
do it.
There's
Starship
no gun
Troopers
to your shit. Yeah, but you have to do it.
Having to do it. It's the institution of it.
I spent my entire school year from middle school to high school
I believe you because you're you.
It's like,
yeah.
It's
and
like
no one did anything. They just looked at me really angry, like, "How you're not proud to be an American?"
That's normally enough.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
that's
like
the thing.
I was born here. What
it's the
more
fucking
do you fucking
like
want
Emperor's
from me?
New Clothes like fear, where like you don't want to be excluded from the group, so you just kind of get cowed into behaving.
Sure, I guess I don't.
But you've never given a shit.
Saying that you don't need to do it.
I used to pledge upside down. You put your hand the wrong way, and you put your hand on the wrong side. You're like, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And people are like, no, Andrew, please, cadence, don't like.
Hell,
this
the
thing.
fucking fear of exclusion was way stronger due to the fact that we went to school post 9/11.
Well, that's true.
There was a there was a real reaction to you not doing the pledge when the whole fucking country was very pro-war, which was a hell of a time to grow up.
Middle school did not look good because, especially when you showed up to middle school on 9/11, and they do the pledge, and everyone got up real quick, and I sat down still, and people looked at me not very happy about that. When you're just like, "What? Planes flew into a building? Not my problem. Not my deal. So it didn't even happen here. Kick back." And then people are just like, you can't." Like,
yep.
Yeah.
The
so surprise everybody, Andrew's been pissing people off his whole life.
But I did it because patriotism is a scam, so don't do it, kids.
Especially when it's related to the military, because it also kills you.
And they can't force you. If anyone tells you they can force you, you
tell
them that's not the whole point of the freedom.
9/11 was being used to trick us into being in favor of a completely unrelated war. That was a hell of a fucking time to be alive.
So I apologize, Colonel. This is probably very unrelatable. But did you, Keith, in what grade were you in when 9/11 happened? Where were you when 9/11 happened?
Where was I when 9/11 happened?
I know where I was.
Fuck.
You were in 7th grade?
I was in 9th grade. No, but you were asking Keith, sorry.
I believe I was in 8th grade.
I'm trying to think about the math. It's like, well, I graduated in 2018 when I was 18.
Okay, so a better question
so I was 11 when 9/11 happened, but I'm trying to think of what grade that was, because I was 12th grade. 7th. So it's 12th grade 11th? Minus 7 is like 5th?
6th grade.
So you're in 5th grade?
Well, yeah.
No, it's September, so...
Well, it's like 12...
right? So
I guess because it was September, it would then be 6th grade, huh? Yeah.
Okay, so you're still in...
I was in elementary school.
Okay, never mind.
I went through all of middle school and high school in a post 9/11 world, and it was weird.
On the day that it happened, did you have to write an essay about it?
On the day that it happened? On the day that it happened, I didn't go to school.
What? You didn't go to school?
No.
I had to go to school. What the fuck?
We live near a military base. My parents thought we were gonna die if we went to school.
Oh,
like because they were wondering how big like the threat was. Like, are they gonna start striking military bases? Like, what's the situation? Like the terror part of the terrorism was very effective. The strike happened. The first part of it happened before I even was on a bus or anything. Or we didn't ride a bus at that age, so we always got driven to school. And so instead of going to school, I just went to work with mom and dad and just didn't go to school that day. And they were watching. They had a little tube TV they took, and they had it set up on the counter, and it was like showing the news all day because it was an actively developing situation.
Okay, so I guess I'm learning today that my parents didn't care about me because I still went to school. They just said, they were like, it didn't happen here, not my problem. Go on the bus, get to school. It's like, all right. And so that
was very much like, I don't fully understand what's happening, but I know that something's wrong and my parents are freaking out, and that's not a normal thing. So like it was like that was an unusual day.
Yeah, but I remember being in English class, and they were like, "Okay, so write an essay on how you would feel if your family was in the planes during 9/11." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Wait, what? Like
wow.
for real?
That's a pretty rough project to throw at your 7th graders."
There were
Holy
like
crap.
3 people in class who had to leave because they were crying.
To be fair,
that's a hell of a prompt for your 12-year-olds.
I was like, "What the fuck?" fuck?
What if your dad and mummy died?
I just wrote a thing about I just wrote a thing about how like it was weird not going to especially the military base, going to school right outside of a military base where half the school comes from that base who weren't allowed to leave. So you go to class, half of the class is empty because they're all on lockdown in a base that may or may not get attacked. I don't know.
Yeah, like we lived
and
in
all the kids probably already know the fear of losing their parents because they're in the military, so they know they have to deal with that probably.
Well, no, those people aren't the ones that were there doing the essay. It was regular people. So
like we lived in an area where you could literally hear the military base's like morning like siren thing. Like I think it was like the
fucking national anthem.
Sometimes that
Oh, I hated that. Sometimes you go outside and you hear like
I was technically in a different city.
You're like, why? Shut up! Like, I live here. I know the anthem. Stop playing on your fucking
you must have
loudspeaker.
American flags.
I would hate to live there. I would hate to fucking live on that base if that stupid blaring ass fucking anthem came on.
We also lived near like the local like largest prison.
Hey, that prison.
I think there's like famous serial killers that were in there.
Yeah, Marilyn Manson was there for like a week, and then he almost died, so they moved him.
What? Marilyn Manson is a musician.
Did he get arrested?
Or not Marilyn Manson. God damn it! Who's the other? Fucking! I keep saying Marilyn Manson. It's such a good
it's
name.
The other Manson.
Charles Manson.
That's the other one. To be fair, Marilyn Manson took his name out of Charles Manson on purpose.
I know, but it's really fucking
okay, so
funny.
MM is a much better name than CM. Like Charles Manson's a shitty name.
It was
Marilyn Manson
because it's
is
a
great
chosen name. It's a stage name.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying that's why I remember it more because it's a good name. But Charles Manson's a shitty name, so I don't remember it. But anyways, Charles Manson. Was
his name is Brian Hugh Warner.
What?
Marilyn Manson.
That's his real name?
Yep, Brian Hugh Warner. He's as old as my dad.
Yeah.
He's as old as your dad?
He's pretty old. He's not young.
Yeah, super old. Oh, yeah.
Marilyn Manson's 51.
We're just calling. Yeah, I just called your dad super old.
Yeah, he's not exactly as old as my dad, but it's real close. I'm like, oh yeah, he's not young.
My only experience of something like that was, I think, at the age of like 8 or 9. I don't know what my teachers were thinking. They asked all the kids what their biggest fear was. For some reason, I don't know why they did this. It was like an assignment, and I said, my answer was to die a painful death. I will remember this to the day I die because it was the weirdest answer ever. But kids say the weirdest thing. So at the age of like 8, and the teacher looked me in the eye and said, "Okay, that's your biggest fear."
I mean, that's a pretty valid fear.
I mean, yeah.
If you're gonna die peacefully.
Yes, absolutely. Or fast.
Well,
there's a lot of psychoanalyzing kids going on. That could be a project. My parents got called in because I thought that I was like troubled because when everyone was drawing pictures in like preschool, I was drawing a storm. But it was just because I watched Wizard of Oz. Like the storm takes you to like the magic fantasy world. Like I was drawing like a tornado and shit. They're like, oh, I think he's like a danger or whatever the fuck.
What? That's
also some one-on-one philosophy.
And then like my brother would like wrote like his like my favorite song is Pain by 3 Days Grace, and then people were like, what's up with here? We better like report this to his parents.
Yeah,
there's a lot of reading into stuff.
I remember I used to have a my old live journal. There were entries on there where I came up with I used to come up with ideas to hurt people, and it was so my idea was like at school we used to have these trash cans that had rocks in them. Do you remember this? Do you remember those trash cans? They had like
what?
They would put they put trash cans inside of this container, and the container was like made of cement, and then in the cement they put these like pebbles into the cement. And so it looked like a nice, like rocky whatever. Yeah, in my head, I thought,
you're talking about the facade around the dumpsters.
And so I thought, like, man, that's stupid because I could just put like an explosive in there, and then the little rocks will shoot out like fucking shrapnel everywhere. That's a great idea. So I put that in a blog, and I wrote, I was like, okay, so
your dumb
if you
child brain is thinking of like school warfare.
Exactly. And so then somebody from my school saw it and they told their parents, and their parents told the school, and the school told the police, and the police showed up to my house thinking I was going to do a school shooting. And so I'm sitting there like playing video games.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that is what they're looking for.
Yeah, so playing video games and doing that with
you
the
play
box.
video games and think about how violence could happen at school. I was like,
I bet you don't say the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's not a lot.
And I don't say the pledge. And so I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there like in my
he hates
garage
America.
I'm sitting there in my garage playing video games, and a cop on a motorcycle rolls up to my house, and I start laughing because it's the stupidest sight is a cop on a motorcycle. I'm like, oh, so bad to the bone there, bud, on your little fucking like half motorcycle, half moped shit. And he's like, and that not a great way to start a conversation with a cop is to laugh, by the way. Don't do that.
Unless you live in a country that isn't a police state.
So
I feel like your interactions with most are the worst choice.
So he rolls up. I'm barreling laughing at him, just in the garage looking at him. My stepfather's there, like working on the car. And so and he's like, what the fuck? Okay, so he walks over, he's like, everything all right? And they go, we need to talk to your son. And he looks at me like really upset, and I look at him like, I didn't do shit. Like, I've been here all day. You watched me here all day. And he's like, you wrote some things online about wanting to hurt people at school. And I was like, no, I didn't. He's like, yeah, here it is. And he like folded out a printout that he made from my live journal, and he like showed it to my stepfather. And he's like, did you write this? I was like, yeah, I did. He's like, well, why? And I was like, because I thought about ways that you could blow up stuff and it would hurt people. He's like, well, do you want to blow up stuff? I was like, no, I just thought that if you blew up something, that would be a risk because it has rocks and it would kill people. And I was like trying to explain how to be a sociopath to not sociopathic people. And like, it's really difficult to be like, look, I think about killing people, but I don't want to kill them. I just think of how easy it is to kill the people. And they're like, no, that's not okay. You can't do that. And it's like, no, it's fine because I'm not going to kill the people.
It's fine. It's that's like, the answer.
And so like, I'm sitting there arguing with like a police officer about, I'm not going to kill people, but I thought a lot about killing people. And he's like, you can't, that's not okay. You can't think and post about killing people online because they think you're going to kill them. I'm like, but I'm not going to kill them. They should know I'm not going to kill them because if I was, I would have already done it. And it's like, no, sir, this is a problem. You can't do this. Don't do. And like, eventually my mom came out. I was like, he's a fucking idiot. Don't listen to him. He's a fucking lunatic. He's fine. He won't do anything. He's harmless. Just go away.
Well, yeah, because your response to saying something dumb is usually to dig the hole even deeper.
Yeah.
And only be more incomprehensible to the person you're arguing with.
And the person
while making
is a
what's
police
often
officer,
just a bad point that you know is bad.
Exactly.
Like, I've seen this loop is bizarre. Like, I've seen it so many times.
And to do it to a police officer is like the best tar pit ever. Because they have to find some kind of like way to either stop the problem that's going to happen, like to say, like either you're a problem or you're not, and they're trying to decide what you are in the moment, but you're a child, so they can't just be too brash about it. They can't like just like beat your kid down into oblivion because that could cost their department a lot of money. And so like they're trying to like, is he a threat? Is he just being a troll? What is he doing here? I don't understand.
You regularly interact with people like you're that guy in a movie that wants to get punched at the bar.
Exactly.
Like he has some kind of dare or something that he has to fulfill, or like his wife gets shot or whatever the fuck the thing is that's happening.
That is a great way to put it. I think if most people could describe my interactions in school, it's that. It's like, I don't know how somebody hasn't punched him, but someone should punch him. That's the goal here, right? Is that he's supposed to get punched.
I remember I used to be like that at school, like Andrew is, or was at least is. But then I realized I was like that. Somebody called me out on it, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I stopped being, because I wasn't doing it on purpose. Although I still have a little bit of that in me. Paradin was that.
No, you call Andrew out on it. He's like, "Yes, I'm glad you've caught up with the rest of the class."
You did it. You figured it out. Like,
now let's resume with the regular program.
He's just wired this way.
Yeah. But the thing is most people are smart enough to detach. They figure it out and they go, okay, eject, and they just fly away from the conversation. And that's how it ends. I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna like grab you and like you have to.
Yeah, it's like some of the Overwatch. It's like some of the Overwatch rants. You register eventually, like, oh, I'm not supposed to like logically argue with this. He's just saying things.
Yeah.
Like on the surface, they sound like logical arguments connected to things that are happening, but he's mostly just saying things.
Yeah,
exactly. I still think that we shouldn't heal DPS that don't want to be healed.
But it's just the way my brain works, and then but I'm not like malicious about it in the sense of like I won't chase after someone and force them to endure the hell. It's just like if you accidentally flew too close to the sun, you're gonna get a little burnt. Is more the way I see it. But
by burnt you mean exhausted.
Exhaustion is a form of pain.
It burns calories.
I guess your mental calories, but that's but yeah. So
Andrew, the exasperation elemental.
Okay, so look for context here. My first day of high school, I bursted a water pipe.
What? That's a memorable thing.
Okay, wait. I'm trying to think of what's the year difference between us? When you showed up to high school, Keith, were they digging out the center area behind the school on the way to the band room? Do you remember where that is? Like if you're going to the so you enter the school, you turn to the left where the lockers are, and or I guess they used to be. I don't know if they're still there.
There was a lot of construction happening the whole time I was in school, in every school.
Okay. So if you turn to the left, behind the administration building, there's like a little grass area and then like a staircase. And in that grass area, there was a water bubble. So one of the pipes was leaking and it was pouring water into the grass and causing a bubble. And so I thought, well, that's cool. I'm going to jump on the bubble until it bursts. And so I did that. And then the burst subsequently burst the pipe underneath it, which then they had to come and bring construction workers out to dig it out and fix the pipe.
What is a water bubble? I'm not sure I know what that is.
I'm not sure what he means.
Okay. Was the ground swelling?
Yes, like the ground was swelling. Yeah, so the idea is that water from the pipe is going into the soil, and the soil is creating a bump, like a bubble. And
on the grass and earth.
Yes, but it's
Didn't you get all dirty?
Yes, so that's how they knew I did it. It was because I eventually jumped and then I sunk into it and I went uh-oh, and I sunk like almost down to my knees and I was covered in mud and I got myself out. I kind of looked around and then walked away.
You're just an actual goddamn delinquent.
I never got suspended though. I only went to detention once, and that was for not turning in homework.
Wow.
I think the age of 14... got a tardiness, like 3 strikes you're out detention or something.
Oh my god.
Wow, that was brutal.
I literally wrote on the wall with a banana and I still didn't get detention.
No, I was just late to school like every day for a while.
Oh, I took the bus, so
like
I
at the beginning.
Be late.
Yeah. No, I had a car, which was a great way to be late.
Yeah, my parents were
I'm just late all the time to things because I'm a bad person.
Also, just being on time is not easy.
Did you never learn time management, or is it
it's not sometimes you just...
I just try to... I get stuck in a loop of
like...
I get stuck in a loop of trying to do something with every moment of my time.
Yep.
Oh, like, yeah, that's the way to get...
It's like, oh, I don't want to show up early, because if I leave now, it'd be like super early. It's like, maybe I can like watch this YouTube video, or like, or sometimes I'll be like, I'll go early, but I'm gonna take a book with me, and I'll like read the book in my car or something if I'm early. Like I always think about like not wanting to have any downtime. Like I was like, but like how much work can I get done, or progress through thing can I get done? And then it often backfires because humans are really bad at actually planning their time management. Mm-hmm. So of course I'm often too early to things where it feels like really important or whatever. But going to Best Buy was definitely not one of those things. So I was late all the time. They were not happy with me. I think I got called in once, like a year into working there, where they were like, "You've been late like every day." Which, in my defense, as far as I could tell, you could only log into their system and start your shift once the time had passed that your shift started. So technically, everyone was late every day because you couldn't sign in early or on time exactly.
It was a dumb system.
But there was some kind of like threshold where I was flagged, I think. But it was just... But also, like, they did all sorts of bullshit. I hated Best Buy. because they had a digital only system where you could only look up your shift by logging into the computers on location, so you couldn't see your shifts from home, but they could change your shifts. Like there could be a gap where it's like, oh, I have like a 5-day gap where I have no shifts or whatever, and then after your last shift ends, and then you're not going to be going back for 5 days or whatever, they could change your fucking schedule and then be like, where are you? Why aren't you here today? It's like you're scheduled for today. It's like, how would I know? Last time I was at work, I wasn't scheduled for today. It's
why don't they send a message? The
worst version of this that ever happened is I specifically requested time off for the specific range of days, which of course isn't like paid time off or anything. They just don't give you shifts during that time. And it was approved explicitly. So I was in Vegas, and then I got called and be like, where are you? You're supposed to be working today. It's like, not only was I not scheduled Vegas for today. Yeah. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. I literally can't possibly get there. I'm in a different state. It's like, I don't know what you want from me, man. But it was like a double whammy of stupid, where it's like, one, last time I was working, when I checked my schedule, I was not scheduled for today. So that's one problem you already have. Second problem is you apparently scheduled me a surprise shift that I didn't know about on days I was already approved for not working. So it's like double wrong. Retail's garbage. I know several people that work retail right now, and they're all miserable all the time. Like it's nothing about that business model is like anywhere near hospitable to its employees. Like, unless you have like your own business, maybe. Like,
no, I think even there, and maybe that needs even worse.
It's bad for different reasons, perhaps, but I mean, like the way that the corporate structure is just cruel to their own employees.
Oh yeah,
all the time.
Okay, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking just about dealing with customers. Yeah. Every time I deal with retail people, I'm just like as friendly as I can be, because I know the pain that they go through.
Yeah, no, I hated customers, but I hated the company more.
Oh yeah, the company is always the thing I hated the most. The customers are like, yeah, someone trained you to be this bad. Like someone keeps rewarding you for being this shitty of a person.
It's the mentality that the customer is always right.
But that's the thing is, and the only reason that mentality exists is because companies keep indulging those people who are complaining. And so you get this feedback. You get this like feedback loop of like, ma'am, I am just here to stock shelves. I can't do anything about your problem. And it's like, but I need to speak to a manager. It's like, okay, but I'm not a manager. Please don't yell at me. What the fuck do you want from me? Like, I can get you a manager. Just don't be an aggressive asshole about it. But, you know, and then retail person's like, yeah, but if you be aggressive, it's a problem. Now we're going to have to fire you. And it's like, what the fuck? Like, this person's coming at me with guns blazing, sometimes literally. And I have to be like the calm, rational one here? It's like, why? It's like, well, your job's on the line. If we lose this one customer, it's going to impact a multi-billion-dollar business, obviously. It's like, okay, sir.
It's not that's not the reason. That is a lie. The reason is because the infrastructure that is set up requires everybody to have a certain sort of paradigm of working, or sort of like a style of working. So if they change that, if they start allowing people to, you know, be a little bit more aggressive, then they change the paradigm of the workers, which then means that the company itself, not because of one worker, but because of the whole system, loses money. And
just a heads up,
the biggest sin.
This would be a lot easier if all of you guys just unionized.
Yes.
Just don't be beholden to a company.
Yes.
Easy.
I mean, it's not easy to unionize. I imagine, especially in the US. But
well, in the US, we have a word for it. It's called union busting.
Where the police shows up and breaks your ribs. That's what you get. What do you want?
Well, it depends. It's only if you block entryway to the store. Then they have a right to break your ribs because you're stopping capitalism.
Wait, they have a right for that?
Well, they can break up. A protest if you're like impeding business.
Because that's the biggest sin.
Well, yeah, that's how an economy works. Is business and the people that pay cops are, you know, the economy.
Yeah, they're the business owners.
But
I don't think that works like that. Picket lines here cannot be broken by law.
Well, let me tell you about the laws here.
It doesn't mean that the police won't necessarily...
They're written by people who don't want those to be laws.
Yeah.
But I worked at Best Buy and I got fired because their electronic system broke. And so I went in and tried to sign into the electronic system, which you can only do after the time, like he said, you can only do it after the time that your shift starts. So I did. I got in at exactly 9:01 a.m. Did the clock in. The electronic system didn't work because I worked at Best Buy when we first built that Best Buy in town, and so I was there literally building the Best Buy, and so the electronic system went down and I wasn't able to sign in. So I went, okay, fine. So I went over and I filled out a physical time card that they had, which is just a printed out sheet of paper, and you just say what time. What time are you arrived and blah, blah, blah. And so I put the time that I signed into the machine to try to start my shift, which was at 9:01. But the time I filled out the paper thing was like 9:10 because I was trying to get the computer to work.
Oh, right.
So I put the thing in, and then I get called in like a week later, and it's like, hey, you lied about your time card. And I was like, what? When? They're like, this date. And it's like, no, I didn't. The computer didn't work. I signed in at that time and then it failed. And it was like, no, you didn't show up to work until 9:10. I was like, no, I was in the fucking building at 8:50 to sign in at 9 because you have to sign in at the stupid time. You can't come in and sign in earlier.
You dug the hole deeper, didn't you?
And no, and so the manager was like, there's two options. You can either quit yourself or we fire you. And I was like, or this is a lie, and you could just let me keep my job and then just fix your fucking system. And my manager, so it wasn't my manager who called me, it was like the store manager. And so my manager came in and he knew I was there on time because I literally, he was the one who told me to go fill out a paper fucking time card. Yeah. And so he looked at me and looked at the manager, and the manager looked at him, and he looked and went, well, I didn't see him coming until 9:10. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, all right, forget it. I'm out. Like, I'll quit then. Fuck you guys. It's
basically just his, like, on a whim witness testimony of, like, whatever the fuck thing that he didn't care about at the time anyway.
I think it was more of like, look, we have to get rid of this guy. You have to say that you didn't see him then. Because I was like, what the absolute fuck? I talked to you. Like, I looked at him, I was like, dude, what the fuck? Like, I saw you. And he just didn't look at me. I was like, oh, fuck this then. I was like, fine, I don't give a shit. It's just a retail job. I can go get millions others. So every time for a year straight.
They just count on most people just hemorrhaging away.
Yeah. So for a year after they fired me, I would go into that store. Anytime I went into that store, I would always tell people that they could buy the computers cheaper at CompUSA across the street. They
lost so much money because of you. Which is well deserved.
So one person, I remember they kicked me out once because I did that. So one person was doing a sale, and I walked over and I was like, by the way, this guy's completely fucking bullshit. I used to work here. This is a complete ripoff of a price. You can go get it for cheaper across the street. And the person dead ass looked at me. They had the cute little radio on their chest, and he was like, I need security. The security guy came over and like escorted me out, and I was like, that was worth it. I feel good about that. Yeah. What a great day. But God, what a shit. I hate that Best Buy. I hate that fucking Best Buy. And now I know somebody, not only do I know Keith that used to work there, I also know somebody else that also works there too. Because that Best Buy can just hemorrhage people. Like
Max works there before too.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It's all the same location.
It's the same
That's
location.
why the system is so important. It's not about the individuals. It's about how everything is run.
I didn't go back to Best Buy because I hated it. So after I had quit, I just didn't want to set foot in there for a long time. But there was this one time I needed something, and I figured I'd probably be able to get there like 9 months later. And I look around, and I didn't recognize a single employee.
Yeah, they're all they all cycle out.
Yeah, which suggests that literally the entire employee base had a turnover while I was gone.
What does Best Buy sell effectively?
Electronics. So, to be more specific, they can sell any types of electronics. They sell household appliances, they sell car radio stuff, computers, video games, movies, entertainment systems, cell phones.
We have similar chains.
TVs,
phones, cameras, iPods,
anything.
when
consumer electronics,
MP3 players when they existed.
But that was not a lie. They are always more expensive to buy it there than if you go buy it somewhere else.
Oh yeah, because they always have a markup, because that's how retail works.
Yeah, and Best Buy's markup is stupidly bad.
Oh yeah, they charged $40 for an HDMI cable.
Oh my god, the fucking cable!
That's normal, though.
I hate
That's
that
really
fucking
normal.
store.
Because as an
no,
employee,
it's not. They made their own fucking cables and they charged you $30 for them. They made them. It was a literal 100% fucking profit. That's stupid.
The thing is, it's probably more than 100%. The thing is,
no, that's a max you can get.
what is not normal is to charge a markup for such a big company. Because at least that doesn't happen here in Europe.
So my job,
go to the big. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
My literal career right now is I work for a company that helps other companies find the best price that they can charge people and still make a profit. That's we literally built an AI to better scam you, and so I know how crazy it can get. Like there are some retailers that charge ridiculous prices for basic products, so that way you buy their brand, which gets them 100% profit, even if it's cheaper than the big name brand. Because it goes directly to them, their pocket. And I know that Best Buy didn't bother. They literally were like, yeah, we're gonna charge the same price for an off brand or our brand, because you don't know that this is our brand, and we just make 100% of the profit from it. But this is the one we're gonna tell you is the best one to buy for your money.
What I'm saying is, like, the cable specifically and stuff that people have to buy on a whim, because if you buy a television that doesn't have a cable, or buy a console or whatever, like you're gonna go to your big retailer, and that's where they're gonna price gouge you. And that happens as well with the phone cases or protective, like any sort of like impulse buy that you need to have it on the day. Like maybe you need a screen protector or I don't know, stuff like that, or a pen drive.
There are some so there used to be a website for that it was actually the website that you could go to, and that was the one that companies would use to buy cables to put into their boxes. So it was a company that specifically only sold to businesses for really low rates. So you can get like an HDMI cable for like $1.50, and
which is more or less their price.
Yeah, but you have to like buy it in a bundle of 5. Okay, whatever, fine. You pay like $5-10 for 5 HDMI cables. Or you buy it off of
Amazon.
Or you buy it on Amazon for like $10-15 more than what you could pay. And so that's where Amazon charges a lot more for HDMI cables than they're worth. They bought Monoprice, and Monoprice used to be one of those people.
I'm sorry. I sometimes confuse eBay with Amazon.
eBay you can find really cheap stuff. But Amazon has a markup, and not all the cables are good. So a lot of the cables you find on Amazon are gold plated, which is not actually a thing.
It's not gold.
Well, one, it's not real gold, and two, it doesn't matter because the device you're using isn't going to change. It's not going to look better because you used a gold.
It's digital. It doesn't matter. It's literally, unless it doesn't work, it doesn't matter.
Yep. But people don't know that.
Sometimes they don't work. And I've seen HDMI cables bought off Amazon that don't work.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like if the signal can go through, it will be the best quality it can be. There's not like a HDMI with better resolution. Like that's not how an HDMI cable works. Some have higher throughput, but that's not relative to how fucking shiny it is. What matters is what the like the speed of that cable is. But again, much like how wireless routers are sold to consumers, you kind of like market lie about the thing until it whittles down to like, yeah, it's gold plated and that means it's good. And it's like, no, actually this is just a cable with a higher through speed, which means that you can watch things in a better quality because it can support a bigger file transfer at a steady rate. But it doesn't actually matter that it's gold. You just say it's gold because that sounds better than like numbers. Yeah. But any case, Best Buy is a bad retailer. So, at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Shocking.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
If you can.
But also don't go online. Don't buy anything.
Especially not Amazon. Because they buy off all the small. They run all the small business out of business, basically.
Small business? What is that? I haven't seen a small business in this country in like 20 years.
I've seen some stats on that. It's brutal. It is just
small business.
Like
I haven't heard
Walmart's
that name in a long time.
Right? Isn't Walmart the biggest American company?
No, it's a small business. It's a mom and pop shop. That's why it's at every
That's
city
why they don't pay
across
tax.
the world. Well, no, that's Amazon.
Oh, that too.
and Target and Best Buy.
Yeah, that as well. And Activision.
Well, Activision's not a retail.
That's yeah, but it felt like throw it in there.
I mean, if you want to go to,
that's the ones I know. I don't think I have to play with what I have. It's a thing.
I just meant that tech companies are not. If you want to start looking at like who doesn't pay taxes, tech companies are not going to be the ones you want to look at because there's a lot of them, and a lot of them don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, retail is funny in the U.S. There's a lot of hope I have in my heart that one day it will just completely die out, and then we never have to use cars again to drive anywhere because there won't be any stores to go to. One day. Actually, why aren't there robot cashiers?
They exist here in Portugal.
No, they have those like not the self-checkouts. Those are lame. I don't like those because that requires. So self-checkouts require humans, and humans are dumb, and I don't want dumb humans.
Self-checkouts require humans?
Yeah, because you are the ones that have to check the stuff out. You have to scan the
It
items.
Requires the client to.
Yeah. And I don't want that because those are the people who are too stupid to do this job. I don't want them doing it. I want a robot doing it for them fast and efficiently. Because the people who are behind the cashier that do it are apathetic and aren't going to do it as efficiently and fast as possible.
That's what subscriptions are for. You subscribe to your carton of milk and to your roast beef or whatever.
What? Can you get
subscriptions? That's where it's going. Everybody.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, there's subscriptions.
Yeah, you can subscribe to food.
You can subscribe to food?
Yeah. And then you get that food regularly. You technically do it.
Oh, you mean the
for silly snacks? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like how people used to get. It's like how people used to get milk.
Oh, you mean back in the day when? Well, that's also how soda worked too. Soda was that you would buy.
There was just milk at your door every day.
Yeah, here.
That's real.
So here in the U.S.,
I remember that in the cartoons, and I like.
Yeah, so here in the U.S., we used to have what was. Oh, so okay, to go very far back in the beginning of time, the U.S. used to require that companies clean up after themselves. So if a company
was communism, and they made it better.
It wasn't communism; it was socialism. It's different. Communism is. America doesn't do communism. Socialism we sometimes do, but communism we don't do. That's what the Russians do.
I was being facetious, Andrew.
No, I know. I'm just saying that we're stupid and we don't know the difference between communism and socialism, and so everything is socialist because it's not communist because we can't do communism. But
to be fair, they're both umbrella terms, and one is just a little bit bigger than the other, and it's kind of complicated.
To be fair, they're all made up garbage, and I don't really want any of them. But
it's all umbrella terms.
But so back in the day, like milk companies would deliver the milk to your door because they would have to go and pick up the glass containers the milk came in. So they would drop off. You would tell them how much you need. Usually, you would get enough milk for like the week because the bottles they would come in was enough for a day's worth. So you would use a bottle a day, and then you would get 6 bottles. And so after the week, you'd put the bottles outside of your door. Milkman would come, pick up the bottles, maybe sleep with your wife if you weren't a good husband.
That's where the milkman comes. That's what the word comes from.
And then, that's why it exists. And then go off. And actually, sodas used to be that way. You would buy a soda, you would drink it. Yeah, you would buy a soda, you would drink it, and you would put the empty glass into a container at the machine, and then the company would come by to take the empty bottles and put new glass
that's the tear machines. It's like in Disco Elysium. We still have that here in Europe for some things.
It's really, it's a really good idea it keeps it clean. But that was a problem because, you had to pay someone to go pick up those containers, and that's not how strong economies work. So we got rid of that. And then now you can just go to the store and buy all your stuff and then throw it in a landfill. So good job, guys. Did it. But yeah, so milk used to be delivered here in the United States. Same with...
We have that for bread. Bread is delivered in some parts.
Yeah, we had a weird thing where a lot of stuff used to get delivered, and then we stopped wanting that. No, I want to go and do it myself.
And get the fancy bread that comes in a plastic bag.
Or something. And then we moved away from delivery, and now thanks to the age of technology, now deliveries are back as if somehow it was not a thing we could have done back in the day. It was like, now you can get your food delivered. It's like, couldn't I? What? Didn't we used to
be fair,
do that?
back in the day, you would have to have those catalogs with like people would be going around selling catalogs and whatnot.
Oh God, it's so much worse now. Now there's people coming to my door selling me religion or selling me fake gas companies or selling me, I don't know, Scientology, whatever that is.
Do you get a lot of door-to-doors? I mean, maybe not this year, but is that common?
So I'm in an apartment complex, so I'm fortunate that I don't. But at the house, I used to get a lot of people show up, and it was not great. Especially vacuum sellers. Vacuum sellers are very forceful, is a good word to put it. They will like push through into your home to sell you a vacuum, and it's like, sir, I have a robot and it cleans my floors for me because I live in the future, and you, man, holding a vacuum cleaner, are living clearly in the prehistoric times, and I don't want to be associated with your prehistoric diseases. And so you just push them out the room, and it's good. You're set.
I thought you were acting the vacuum seller, saying that I have a robot who cleans my house. You must have one as well.
I do. I have,
because that was starting to sound like a pyramid scheme all of a sudden.
They want to sell you like these crappy like Hoovers. You got to move yourself. Well, I mean, they're crappy because you have to do it yourself. I don't want to. I don't want to vacuum. I don't want to waste my time. I want something else to waste its time vacuuming, which is what I have.
To have a one-floor house without stairs or steps.
You can do it with multiple floors. You just have to buy 2.
No. I would have to buy 17.
Why? How many floors?
Because every room in my house is on a different level. Not 17. I don't have 17 rooms in my house.
I was going to say, like, how many?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Every single room was on a different floor, basically? Like level?
Wait, you have a 9-story home?
Do you just have like
it's not story though.
No, it's just like he has like a stair or something. Like he's like a step
it's like a little
separates
step
every single room.
Them.
They're like all different heights slightly or something.
Yeah. That's basically it.
Huh.
It's a 2-story house, but still only a few parts of the house are actually one on top of the other. That's why. It's old school European houses. You know how it is. You've been in France, you know.
It's not cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Well, in France, I was in.
Oh yeah,
In France, I was in an apartment and then in a log cabin, so it was pretty uniform.
Yeah, it's only the old stuff that tends to be like that.
I will say, getting up the stairs was not great because some stairs were different sizes, and I was like, "Is this a problem? Did like?"
Yes.
Did they not?
You can fall and break the things for sure.
But did you?
I happen to fall sometimes.
It's a mold. Like just. Lay the lay the one level, then you go to the next part, and you lay the other level. Why are they different sizes? What happened?
I will show you. I will take a picture of the stairs that go up to my room, and then you'll see the madness. And it's not uncommon for people to have weird stairs. It's just because either of space constraints or maybe half the stairs were built before the rest of the stairs because there was another room over there. Or
then you tear the old stairs out and build new stairs.
But there's no money for that. Or maybe the carpenter did half the stairs in the morning and half the stairs in the afternoon.
Well, that's a bad carpenter. I mean, you should pay for a better carpenter.
You know what I'm referring to, though.
I mean,
he drank at the. Yeah.
That's
sort of a Portuguese joke. So
I would never.
You wouldn't have translated, yes.
Yeah, I would never hire an openly drunk carpenter.
Oh, but you need what else are you gonna wash the food down with?
Well, look, they're all secretly drunk. I'm just saying that I don't want them openly drunk because that would make me less trustworthy.
No, you wouldn't tell the difference just on his mannerisms alone. You'd just be able to
I would tell the difference if the man's measuring stairs wrong. I look at him like, sir, how the hell did you fuck this up? Like, you measured the stairs perfectly fine.
It's a lot more common than you'd think. I'm saying it as a joke, but it is absolutely how it works. Things done in the afternoon tend not to be as good.
Isn't there...
There are laws against that,
like
yes.
I thought there was a... Well, no, but I meant, isn't there like a thing where you guys, but Portugal specifically, doesn't it have a, like an afternoon break?
Oh.
Do you guys have... I thought it was...
You think of the siesta in Spain?
Oh yeah, I think it was Spain.
It's not. I think they just start working later because they have lunch and then they have the siesta up until 4.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. Okay.
I think it's 4. I'm not sure how it is with in modern day corporate.
I remember hearing that and being like, how do you function like that? But I guess also, I don't know. I guess technically there's a lot of places that just do 9 to 5, and how do you function that way? Because 5 is the time everybody else gets out of work. So how the hell do you? How do other people?
I do 9 to 6 because it's 8 hours, and I have an hour for lunch. But I don't like it at all.
Wait. Doesn't 9 to 5 include your lunch?
I'm not sure. How do you eat on a 9 to 5? Do you eat during your work hours?
You don't get paid for lunch.
Well, that's another issue. The thing is, how do you find time to work to eat?
There's generally like a half an hour break where that technically is not when you're on shift in the middle of your shift. So you leave work or go to break room or whatever, and
so it's not an 8 hour. It's not an 8 hour day. It's like 7.5.
Well, no. Well, in many cases, it's an 8.5 hour.
Yeah, it's 8.5 hour day.
Like today, Stephanie is working from 1:30 to 10 because she has an 8.5 hour day because of lunch.
Yeah, so she gets a 30-minute lunch break, and
which she's generally guilted out of taking. So she tends to work through lunch, even though it's
what she doesn't take it. That's literally illegal.
Everything's bad.
There is no way. Absolutely. So every time I worked retail, I would take that, and because you're allowed a legal 15-minute break for smoke breaks, even if you don't smoke. So always take those too. You always can just walk out and be like, all right, 15-minute break. I get one by law, and a 30-minute. Sucks to be
unless they decide to fire you because you're not unionized.
They can't really because, in California you can't.
Is it not that nonsense about personal arbitration or what is it called?
It is not a at-will employment state. They have to have a reasonable reason to fire you.
Oh, nice.
And they cannot fire you for taking a break because that is
because they have to have the reason, and that can't be one of them.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So the way it works for me and a lot of people is you get at home at 9 and you leave at 6, but you have an hour in the middle. Instead of being half an hour, you have an hour. I think you can't do half an hour for eating.
You got to do it
in
quickly.
Portugal. No, I know, but like in terms of law, I think you can't. Oh. And some businesses actually do an hour and a half. For a while, I was working like that.
Usually, almost in most corporate settings, an hour is the default because that's just normal. Like it's healthy to take
is too fast.
Yeah, it's healthy to take like a time because you're supposed to take time to eat, and so you shouldn't be like cramming food down your throat in less than 10 minutes, so that way you can have like some time to just sit down and decompress from the hell that you're dealing with, and so like you don't want to do that because it ends up making people either sick because they eat too fast and then get sick, or you end up with burnout quickly. But I guess
I got so much fucking stink eye for actually taking my breaks and lunch correctly when I was working at Best Buy.
Dude, Best Buy has like a fancy little break room with a TV in it and all this shit. Don't even
they're like mad at you for doing it.
Yeah. I'm like, why did you put this in here then, you idiots?
Because you're technically supposed to have a break every 2 hours, basically. Because your 8-hour shift is split down the middle by a lunch, but then also each of those is split by a 15-minute break where you're just supposed to be able to basically just leave for 15 minutes but not really do anything. And that's technically paid time off, sort of. Yeah,
those are your cigarette breaks are paid 15-minute breaks, and then your lunch is you have to clock out for your lunch.
Yeah.
And then clock back in.
But you're treated like you're a bad employee when you do any of these things. Because, it's why unions exist. It's because every single thing that is good for the worker and the slightest inconvenience to the employer is like you stepping out of line.
Yeah.
How dare you remove the profit? And the thing is, it's not even removing the profit from the company because people, happier workers are more productive.
But you're stealing money because they're paying you to not do something.
But
that's
the only reason why maybe at Best Buy that's a problem is because they have such a huge turnover that happiness of the workforce doesn't matter because they're not going to be there long enough to matter.
Yeah, so they just burn you out and throw you away.
Yeah.
And move on to the next person.
That's a hidden benefit of laws like that force companies to give proper working conditions, that's a hidden benefit. It's not only because the people who work there for a long time are going to be happier, it's also because it's going to be a lower incentive for companies to have a huge turnover. And that often gets forgotten because people don't think...
Yeah, but the huge turnover isn't costly enough that they need to change that system, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Is because they
just
don't,
a Band-Aid. Yeah.
Since they don't have to offer any benefits or anything, they don't find themselves in a situation where they're... Like, corporations have a harder time doing turnover like that because you have to provide a lot of stuff that then you have to waste time dealing with at the end. Like, you have to take them off of a retirement benefit. You have to take them off of, like the medical insurance. You have to add a new person to medical, add a new person to health. And like, there's a lot more effort that goes into rehiring people in a corporation. So the turnover rate tends to be a lot lower. But retail is
just
they don't give you anything. Yeah. They barely give you money, if you can call it that. Like, minimum wage isn't minimum anything.
Their appreciation is like, you've been here for like an entire year. Here's like a 7-cent raise.
Yeah, they're like, here, you make $8.07. Like, oh my god, is that like going to be an extra $1.50 in my paycheck a month? Shit, I might buy like a Snickers. God, I can't wait.
Are you what's the minimum wage in California?
I believe it's 15 now, but the minimum wage needs to be $25.
It is now $12.
For the price of leaving? $12.
I thought it's 15 in 2020.
I googled. It's 12. What will
Google
California's minimum wage be in 2020? That one says 13.
Oh, 13. Okay. Sorry. So it's
I guess my source that said 12. That Google's auto polling is 2019,
which is $27,000 a year. Which, if you aren't aware, you need at least a minimum of $50,000 a year to make ends meet in this state.
Yeah, I know.
If you're living by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
local prices are a fucking nightmare. Where it's just like I was thinking about, like, when you have a place like San Francisco where all of the prices skyrocket because of the tech companies and whatnot, but then like surely that city wants to have like service employees exist in their city so that there are services, right? But then how do any of them afford? Like, how can any of them afford to live there if the prices skyrocket like that? Like, it's how economies shut down, essentially. In this case, it's that all those people have to just live outside of San Francisco and drive into it every single day, and it's like, what a fucking nightmare! I hate that entire idea.
So San Francisco this is why I really despise the city and wish it would sink already. Is that all the problems of San Francisco are itself constantly shooting itself in the leg and then falling over. Like, what happened? So, like, the traffic issue is because, nobody fucking lives in San Francisco that works in San Francisco. So they all commute into San Francisco, which, how are they commuting? Well, they could either take the BART. Oh, right. The BART was an optional decision. So not every city around San Francisco has public transport into the San Francisco because some of them decided to just not build a BART station. So some people are carring in, some people are BARTing in. And when they BART in...
And half the ways into San Francisco are like a bridge.
Yes, and the only ways into San Francisco, unless you go from the very bottom or the very top, is a fucking bridge that is only a 2-lane bridge. So, like... Great. Good job,
2
guys.
2-lane each way or 2-lane?
Each way.
Okay.
Which also means that also means you get to pay tolls.
Well, remember, Keith, the tolls are there so that we can keep painting it a stupid, ugly-ass fucking red so it looks great on the postcards. It's the only reason you pay that stupid toll. You don't
like the color? It looks so nice.
The Golden Gate Bridge is an atrocity in terms of everything. It's ugly. It's a fucking bad design. It needs to be 2 times its size. No fucking color. I don't care about a color on a bridge. It needs to function. And it doesn't. It does not do its main core value, which is be a good bridge.
And then the clouds come in and it's all pretty.
Yeah, and then half the time the fucking bay fog blocks it. So you're sitting there look at that beautiful cloud. I'm glad.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I'm really glad we paid money for that. it's such a shit bridge. The only time it's ever been represented properly is in X-Men when Magneto tears it out of the fucking water and throws on Alcatraz. That's like the only time I actually saw the bridge and be like, yeah, that's exactly what I want. That's what I want in the bridge. Please, Magneto, save me. It's stupid.
Me. Like, Andrew's here today with the fucking bridge hot takes.
Me and Keith took the sister bridge up in the top to get into San Francisco. And that bridge is equally shitty because the only way you can access it is through a fucking mountain. Like, someone decided that going through a stupid tunnel was the best way to get into San Francisco. Why?
To be fair, San Francisco...
It does mean that you're double bottlenecked if you ever want to replace any of that stuff to make it wider. And you have a bridge and a tunnel.
It's I hate that city.
San Francisco is such a weirdly located city, though, geographically.
Because it's fake.
Every city is fake.
We just threw a bunch of sand in the water and did it. It's done. Look at this beautiful city.
And now let's make it all
fucking
bumpy.
Burned down. They wouldn't just let it be dead.
Right? Nature was like, look, guys, I'm giving you an out. Just go build anywhere else. And how about we build bigger? No, don't do that. And it's like, we built more San Francisco. Taller buildings. More things. It's like, did you make them earthquake proof? Not earthquake proof. Oh, shit.
This entire city is built on a hill. What should we do? How should we plan its roads? A grid. Just a grid.
A grid.
That's why. Yeah. Oh my
god. You
really?
just take a right turn onto a 45-degree angle street. And you're like, fucking what? You just go down a hill.
So that's
the entire.
I thought it was on purpose to be.
The entire town's a grid, and it's all slanted because it's on hills.
And so there's slants where you can only go one direction because they're one-way roads up a slant, and you're like, who the fuck did this?
You just have to gun it because you're turning left and you're going up a fucking mountain.
Oh my god.
San Francisco's not built for people. It's built for... I think that one trolley you see, it's literally just built, the one that's in Sonic Adventure 2.
Is it just the one?
It's just that.
It's the one happy building.
Trolley. Yeah, it's only for that one trolley.
Wait a minute, that trolley is just one in the whole city, and they put it everywhere in every time San Francisco is depicted.
I have no idea. There's probably more than one trolley. I don't know.
There's multiple. There's multiple trolleys, but
because that would be like Seattle's space disc.
I don't even think it runs anymore. Maybe it does.
Oh, they killed San Francisco's unique selling point.
It's not very good because you need more space for the cars to get.
It's a trolley, of course it isn't.
Yeah,
San Francisco is basically the whole reason why we have to learn in driving a school how to park on a hill. It's like which way to turn your tire so your car doesn't roll away.
Which you never will do anywhere but this godforsaken hellhole. Is the only place, unless you live in the Richmond Hills, which if you do, why? Just let your car fall down. It will save you from so much trouble.
Just go let the car fall down.
Just leave. Don't park on a hill. Any place that you need to park on a hill like this is not a good place to live. That is a very fucking Disneyland-ass looking San Francisco, because it does not look like that. It looks like someone shit all over the place.
I just posted a picture on our Discord.
Yeah, no, that. I wish San Francisco looked that nice. In fact, it looks more like what Keith posted, which is like someone fixed a street maybe once every 10 years.
You walk on your front step and then twist your ankle falling over sideways.
That road looks like what an old wall would look like if it fell over.
Yeah, the road also looks like shit because it looks like a weird concrete that's all like broken up. It looks like a patchwork of different materials.
Because it is, because it's patchwork. Because they won't just they can't repave San Francisco. Because if you shut any part of San Francisco down, it's caticlismic.
San Francisco also smells horrible.
Because
there's no real upside. It's a terrible time. Driving driving just gives you anxiety. Like it's stressful. You feel like you're going to crash the entire time you're driving there.
All the San Franciscanos now being super upset at us, all disliking. All the dislikes.
No, they're not, because they don't live there.
They can't afford internet. They spend a lot of rent. They're not here.
Oh, no.
Also, if they are, where they don't live
They hate it, too.
yeah, they also hate it. I remember the one thing that pissed me off about San Francisco was I went there back when I used to smoke cigarettes. And it was an ass to find a fucking place that sold cigarettes. Everybody was like, "Oh, man, we just no one smokes cigarettes here. I'm like, that's bullshit. I know you all smoke cigarettes. Don't try to fucking
don't lie to me.
Don't lie to me.
I see your beard and your plaid.
Yeah, it's like, I see all of your butts on the ground. Where the hell do you sell these things? And then I found a place like, they're about $15 a pack. I was like, 15? What the hell happened here? I was like, forget it. I'm just going to drive out of town. There's a perfectly good city right outside of town. That is a nightmare. That is real. That is real, but it's a nightmare, and I hate that. There's the trolleys. There's your stupid, crappy trolleys that have to do it.
For context, places. I posted a picture of one of the streets the trolleys go on, where it looks like a staircase of roads, like it's a ramp of road that keeps stopping so that the crossing street can be flat. But you see it go up like 5 steps up a hill. And
we have some places that look like that here.
How the fuck did we get this topic? We have to stop. We're 3 hours in.
That's my fault.
We're good with the podcast.
I kind of like petered out a bit, and then you guys kind of just kept the flame burning, and like Hanukkah, the Hanukkah miracle happened of the Infinite podcast, and I was like, they're just gonna keep going. Like they're very animated. I tuned out for 10 minutes at a time at some points. I got up and used the restroom and came back, and you guys were still good.
Nice. Well, well, if you ever come and visit, don't go to San Francisco. You can look at it from outside, wave, the bridge won't mind, and just never come. Take the picture. Everyone takes a picture on the hill. There's like a hill on the outside that you can perfectly see the bridge. Take that picture and just book it down. Just get out of there. Don't go anywhere near it.
I was going to close out with a question, but I think at this point we'll just open next time with questions.
And don't do an escape room there.
We're certainly not.
Rooms are bad.
We did. Well, we did. We don't know about the normal ones necessarily, but the one we did was not good. Yeah, I think that one was on tour though, which is a distressing thing to say about such a bad thing. But also, an escape room on tour is a bad idea because it means that it's like a setup shop that's not really permanent, so it's really cheap and garbo. We did the Legend of Zelda escape room, which is funny to do because I hadn't played them yet, so I didn't have context for half the dumb gimmicks. It was themed around
this Triforce thing.
It was themed around Ocarina of Time, so there was like time travel in it. But it was also like 5 separate groups of people all sitting at separate tables, and you're essentially solving what was like a fucking like kids menu like. It's like when you go to a restaurant and they give you the kids menu that you can color in and stuff like that. It was like that one of those papers that was like a series of riddles we had to solve our way through. And so you had to like go to specific people with specific items to get the ability to time travel, or there was like the idea of having like the Zora tunic and all these other things. And it was all imaginary space. It wasn't like real escape rooms where they're great.
Yeah. Do you remember where the answer was to the puzzle?
I didn't have context for it, so it didn't really stick because I didn't understand Zelda that much.
It was around your lanyard.
Oh yeah, or we were like wearing the answer.
Yeah, we were wearing the answer.
They're being like coy about it.
Yeah,
the answer's with you. It's like because there was like the
Triforce.
Yeah, I think the Triforce of Courage was on our lanyard. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like always, guys, if you want to ask a question, which we'll probably actually do some of next episode, you can send it to dialoguechoicespodcast@gmail.com. Sorry for like, in general.
We'll get there eventually, guys. Don't worry.
And we'll see you guys next time.